was like,
No, I
all
didn't
right.
start recording without you, but we're recording now. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting of GOL to order at on December 19th, 2024 at 6:32 p.m. I'm going to call on everyone on the committee to make sure they can hear and be heard. Let's start with Lynn Griesmer.
Present.
George Ryan.
Present.
Counselor Ette.
Present.
And Athena is here, and I am here as well. And my name is Anna. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. We have, let's see, no members of the public right now, but this would be where we would do our call for public comment. Couple things to touch on today. We've got our town manager goals to continue to discuss. I want to have a quick just rendezvous with the committee about our upcoming agenda items and what the next couple months is going to look like for this committee. And then we have one proclamation tonight. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. So in terms of timing, I will save the last 15 minutes or so of the meeting for the proclamation. I think the upcoming agenda items discussion will be relatively short. So we'll spend the bulk of this meeting on the town manager goals. And as we start in on this, what I want to just talk about is part of the conversation that we had with the council on Monday was about what is useful for GOL to put forward and then what is useful for the council to come together and discuss. So I think that ultimately my intention as chair is to recommend the council come together in a retreat where we look at every single action item, because I do not think that this committee of 5 or 4 will be able to recommend. I don't think that it's should be the expectation of this committee to recommend something that's going to have consensus at the council. So I would like this committee to focus our time on getting things that are not objectionable by how they're written, and to make sure that we've collected the input from folks. But ultimately, I think that what's going to happen is if this committee edits, if this committee takes things out that counselors put in, we're going to go to the council and the counselors are going to ask to have them put back in. If this committee puts things in, the council is going to want to vote on them, which it should. It should vote on everything. So I wanted to get thoughts from you all about our focus as a committee being on, let's make sure that this document is, we gathered some of the feedback, but let's present it to the council for voting on each item versus us trying to guess and trying to go around and edit what people have sent in. I don't think that's a good use of our time beyond editing it to fit kind of the standards that we're putting stuff in. You can come in. Stop. Sorry, Sandy was barking at the door. What are folks' thoughts on this? Those are my thoughts, but I'd love to hear from others. George.
So we have a draft in front of us this evening,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a draft that the entire council now has seen.
Mm-hmm.
So they're aware of what we have done,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been invited to submit written comments.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're just going to work with this draft
Mm-hmm.
and do our best to get it into the best shape we can. I'd like us to take things out tonight. I'd like us to remove some things. I'd like us to combine some things. We have 39 action items, last I counted, something like that. And if people want to put more, if they want to put something in at the council level, fine. But I think we should do our best to get this thing cleaned up as best we can. And we should also try as much as we can to take things out and combine things. And if somebody says, I mean, they need to pay attention. It's not our job to do their job. So they've got a draft. We're going to massage it tonight. Then we'll send it to them and we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you. Lynn?
I think at a minimum, we should try to condense as much as we can. I mean, George may want to go further than I might, but that's, just difference of opinion. But more importantly, I think it is important for us to identify where there are new things being proposed and with the recognition that those new things would require dedicated resources, whether that be money and staff or whatever. Because as I looked at the goals and the things that people have submitted, there's a lot of new things. And I think that that's where, I personally don't think the council needs to spend any more time on climate action, except for maybe expanding that one area. But on the others, there's a bunch of new things, and they will require a dedication of resources. That's all.
Thank you. Athena?
With the committee's permission, I'd like to offer a suggestion if folks are open to a suggestion.
Sure.
So the council went through a process over the past year where the president asked members to prioritize the goals to kind of help frame a conversation geared towards what the end result of the town manager's work at the end of the year would be. Given the number of goals that are in the document at this point, my personal feeling is that it's a lot. And the committee could recommend that the council do the same kind of process at this point early in the year to help cull them during a retreat. So the committee might recommend the council not adopt the goals at the next meeting, but hold a retreat, and each counselor prioritizes the goals, and that will help inform the conversation, because if no counselor ranks a particular goal number one, then that might help inform a decision to pull that goal, because at the moment, I would venture to say that it's too many, and some of them are probably easy to achieve, and others are much bigger, and it might help to identify not just what are the top priorities, but what are the expectations, what are the real expectations for achievement of that goal. Is achievement progress, or is achievement completion, and that kind of thing. So I agree with a lot of the conversation that happened at the council meeting on Monday and is happening now, that it's going to be really difficult for the four of you to create a document or edit this document in a way that the council will then go ahead and say, yes, that's perfect.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. So yes, and that was the thought that I had about the retreat, was why it would be helpful to come together as a body to look at what people were proposing and discuss it in one place. I thought that would be a better use of time than kind of GOL bringing it forward and reiterating constantly. And so I think, yeah, if we can get to a point where we have something to pitch to the council, I agree. I guess I'm a little bit thrown by the constant push for consolidation. And I say that not because I don't think that this is too many goals, but because I worry that in an effort to pursue a number, we are weakening and making goals less actionable. So I would rather have more smaller, more actionable goals than going back to frankly, what we had before, which were broad, and we had more than 39 last time, broad, murky goals. So I do not feel in a pull towards a specific number. I think that what we need to do is ask what's feasible and look at each one to see, big goal, medium goal, small goal, all of that, to kind of gauge if it's doable. And that's what we need to do in conversation with Paul. So I disagree with consolidation for the sake of consolidation. I think that we should look at what's feasible, and not strive for a specific number or anything like that. I agree, Lynn. I think that we should fill out that third column of whether something is new, ongoing, or not. I think that would be really useful, and that this committee could do that. We did receive some comments back from 3 counselors, and so I have those up and am prepared to discuss them as well. George?
So just a practical question with this action items column. Can anything go in here? Shouldn't everything that goes in that column be something that's achievable in 1 year?
It should be, or it should be
No.
specifically, or hang on, or
Yeah.
It should either be achievable in 1 year, or we should specify what we expect to be done in the next year. Not necessarily the whole thing, but what do we expect to be done in a year?
So the assumption is that whatever's in here, however it's phrased, is a 1 year item, even if it's going to go on for more years in this
We
coming
have
year. Yeah.
we have some editing to do to follow our own rule there.
Right. No, exactly. I understand. And I appreciate that. I like the idea of identifying what's new and what resources are available to meet it, asking that question. I like using the lens of feasibility. And I really, really hope that we can get this down to a smaller number, but we'll see.
Athena and then Lynn.
One more thing I wanted to add, and thank you for letting me participate in this part of the conversation, was that if the committee were to make a recommendation about a retreat to complete the work on the goals, the council's past practice has been to hold the election of the president and vice president at the first regular meeting. We haven't had a meeting before the first regular meeting in the new year yet, but if the committee were to make that recommendation and if there were no objections from councilors, we could try to schedule a retreat before that first meeting in January so that the council could act on goals at that first meeting in January.
Okay. Okay. Lynn?
No,
Oh.
I've said all I need to. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, I looked off to the side and didn't see you. Sorry. Okay, so for today then, I think how I want to use our time, and I'm seeking input from the committee on this, but what I think would be a good use of our time is let's pull up the document and look at some of the feedback that I received from counselors, maybe, and add that in so that we have an updated version to send to council. And then I think we should spend some time figuring out what our recommendation is to council for a retreat. I don't know how in-depth GOL needs to get with that. Athena, I'm looking to you to kind of give your thoughts here on whether GOL should be giving an overarching, this is how we should spend the retreat, or whether GOL should be making recommendations even more specific than that. I do think that by the time we get to a retreat, we should have a document that at the end of the day, we can strive for consensus, but this is a democratic body, and so at some point we're going to need to vote items up or down. And so I think GOL could make some recommendations for how to approach that if that's appropriate, but I'm not sure if it is.
The recommendation to complete the work as a council at a retreat is just my idea. So it's up to the committee if that's something that you want to recommend, or if you want to try and get through what you're doing tonight. If that's the case, then I think a further recommendation would be how to frame that retreat and how to have the conversation. So in order to have a retreat, we need every counselor to fill out this thing that says, here are your priorities. These are the ones, similar to what the president had done this past year, rank the goals so we can go through them, and that will help inform the conversation. And then maybe also ask Paul what he thinks is achievable and kind of rank them in the same way. One thought that I had in addition was that the council has a perspective that it doesn't know what it doesn't know. And it might be worthwhile asking Paul if there's something missing from this list. So I think getting his input as part of your recommendation, as well as asking the counselors to do some work before that retreat, could be a valuable part of that conversation and help move things along at the retreat. If that were to be your recommendation, just my idea is not what you have to do.
No, that's fair. George?
Again, just a procedural question. The comments you've received from other counselors, can we weave them into the process as we move our way through the document rather than just have them dumped on us all at once? Because they're probably going to be all over the place.
Yeah,
what do you think would work best? I'm open to either, but
I have a document where I'm combining them. They had at least one of the individuals who sent them asked that they not be placed in the packet directly, just because they hadn't kind of sent it with that intention. So I'm trying to figure out how to make sure I'm honoring that at the same time as we need to discuss them. So I'm combining the
You're not
documents.
talking about mine, are you?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm trying to figure out how to, I am planning on having them all up.
You want us to actually see them as opposed to you could just read them to us or,
I can just read them to you. I will
Mm.
say, if I'm going to be reading them to you. It would be helpful if someone else could pull up for the original document to for us to edit.
I
As
will
we
be glad to do that. But
Thank
are
you. That
you
would be
going to send me the one where you've condensed everything?
No, because I'm going to read out the comments instead of putting them up on the screen, since those people had asked that they not be specifically like their direct comments in the.
Even though some people didn't say that?
I can send you the ones who did. I was just going to combine all of them so that I could add them in as we go. I thought that might be
You have a
easier.
document with the ones that people sent you that they did not mind having them public, okay? Which by the way is a definition that if they sent it to you, it's public. The reality is, then you just keep back the one or the two that don't want them in the packet.
Yep. Okay. I will, give me one moment. Let me.
Yeah. I'm sitting with my email on.
Okay, so I can only seem to compare like a couple at a time.
Mhm.
So I will send you. This is Rob's and the original by Athena.
I'm sorry, it's whose?
Not Rob, Bob Hegner, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Showed up as Robert and so it threw me.
But you have mine handy, right?
I have yours handy, yes. All right, send that. Yeah, because it's, you can't really combine more than two without it mushing all of the comments together.
Mhm.
I guess my thought on is that as we go through this document, you have the comments in front of you. And just as if they were present, you could just say, you don't even have to give a name if you don't want to, but Counselor X, says this on this item. Now, if they have
That was
something.
my thought too.
Right,
That was,
just
sorry,
bring
that
them
was
into
my
the
thought too,
conversation.
George.
Right.
But I think what Lynn was saying is not everyone had, not everyone had said they didn't want their comments brought up, so she wanted the ones that
Well,
she didn't mind. I,
I mean, we're going to speak our comments this evening and we're not going
we
to have them
are,
typed up
we
on the
are.
screen. So I don't
Okay,
really.
I think,
Yeah.
Lynn, I've got comments from Bob and Mandy and you. If you want to just pull up the original, that I think that George's plan might be easier, so I can come in with input as we go.
But so why you just sent me the one with the edits from the other night and Bob Hegner's.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be more confusing if you have some counselor edits, but not all. So do you have just I can I think it was sent to you. It was sent to the council from Athena on Monday, but
Yes,
I
I
can send
have that.
just the plain version. Okay.
I have that, and I'm glad we're looking at that because I have one serious question.
Okay.
Okay. On the screen. I assume this is the version you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's what
And I'd love to know what this meant.
and I think it was supposed to say, or
The goals and
Goals.
themes.
That's not a sentence.
no, I'm not sure what that edit was.
what it said originally is the goal areas are
Our
overarching
overarching themes.
and, well, then overarching themes,
Yeah,
identifying priorities for the town.
I don't recall us deleting from that section.
I don't know why that's there. I don't know. Yeah, I don't, yeah. I mean, it's just, was there a problem with the original statement? I didn't see it, but. Brecky has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Counselor Ate, go ahead.
Is the reason why we are working on this, since this seems to be more a statement from the chair, or is this a
Right.
statement from GOL?
This
Yeah,
is
we're not
from
gonna vote on that.
council, really, ultimately, at the end of the day. This is the intro paragraph. This is,
Okay.
I sent it in initially, but we could take my name off it. My name does not need to be on it.
So your understanding is when we vote on this, we're also voting on this sort of preamble.
Yeah, I mean, that was
Okay, no, that's
similarly to the executive summary and the financial guidelines. I thought it was
no, right. Yeah,
important.
yeah. I'm just trying to remember, this shows you where I'm at, that whether we went through this very carefully.
Well, we
You-
did. We
you
went through
interviewed-
this and let me just point out, here's the things we changed. We changed this title.
Right,
We added in town council here.
right, exactly. We made some.
Those are the basic things we changed.
There's no
Right.
problem with the text.
And then
yeah.
we changed them below.
Mhm.
And
Right.
then below, what you have is the changes in climate action that we made during the meeting. But the question is, do we now accept these?
Right.
And
Yeah, and in this area, I mean, there was, so a counselor said they wanted to update the Amherst Bicycle and Pedestrian Network Plan goal, and I think this is why I don't want us to, honestly, I think GOL erring on the side of put everything in and then the council voting to take it out is going to be simpler than one counselor saying to GOL take it out, another counselor saying GOL put it in, and GOL being the arbiter of that decision.
where
feels
is that? Where is that?
That's not in this section.
That was a
that's somewhere
comment
else.
I got from a counselor.
Well, and we can discuss it as we should. And I may have some thoughts on that as well. And in the end, we'll decide what we want to do.
Oh, I
But it
scooted
seems to
down
me-
below, sorry.
I'm sorry, it seems to me that if a counselor wants something in and it's not in there, they need to speak up.
Well,
So,
they will, but they'll speak up at the retreat.
okay, if we have a retreat, then they'll speak of the retreat. Good.
So
Counselor Ette.
Two quick points. One is the text seems small, so if it could be
I will do what I can to insert it. I mean, layout.
You want
design,
view, under view, I think.
View, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think.
and
Zoom, there you go.
then
Good. That's fine.
for the two, are we looking at the 2025 town manager goals preamble, or are we jumping straight into the goals themselves?
I'm going to suggest we jump to the goals and worry about the
Please.
preamble later.
But
Yeah.
I will say that thank you for that suggestion. I will say, Counselor Ette, if you have edits, I'd love to, if you could send them to me as track changes, that would be really helpful. Especially if they're smaller grammatical edits, that would be great. Because we can make those faster here than at the council.
So yeah, big grammatical edits.
Okay, yep. If you want to send me a track changes version, I welcome that. That's why I did send it to the committee to try to get feedback, but I welcome those changes. Lynn, I misspoke that the bicycle plan wasn't under climate action. I had scrolled by accident.
Okay.
So just take that out, right?
Okay.
It comes later. I forget, yeah.
Okay. And then the other question was whether or not we just wanted to say this here and drop this one. Or leave this one in, but be more specific.
Well,
So-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So this was why we had put the report from ECAC in our packet a while back. because we wanted to look at it to see what they were pulling out, and they gave specific priority areas. So I'm just trying to pull that up really quick. So there are things in there that I think we could easily put in.
It just seems arbitrary. I mean, we're just gonna grab 1 or 2 items. Why not 3 items? Why not 5 items? Why 1 item? Why 6 items? I
Because
just
the-
don't see, yeah, I'm not qualified to make, whatever you choose, I'm gonna resist because what about something else? And we
But
could
George,
spend the next 2 hours discussing it.
but then the issue, George, is that then nothing is in here. If we do not, and then if we are the body that dictates the priorities for the town manager, not our committees, our responsibility is to uplift what our committees are asking us to do. And this is where we as counselors have the choice to do that or not. And I think we should, and I do think that we should pick ones that feel most firmly in the realm of the town manager's work, which I do think we can do. And you can disagree with me, and that's fine. But I think that ultimately, if committees don't get to set their own goals for the town manager, that's the council's job. And if committees need the town manager to focus on something in order to pursue the goals that we've tasked those committees with, we should be supporting when they ask us to put those forward. Counselor Ette?
Thank you for that point. It's something that I wanted to raise. If we look at the annual report, which is the last page, what we're going to see on the town manager goal suggestions is really out of the 7 that ECAC wants to work with the town manager on climate goals. And so maybe we don't need to pick. Maybe the action item might just be work with ECAC. And then at the end of the year, we have an opportunity to read what the town manager has done and what ECAC says has been done and compare notes in that case. I think it is the council's role in a way to make that choice. We are qualified, not in terms of the scientific material, but because we have a duty to the town in a way that ECAC doesn't have.
Counselor Ryan?
So I'm just gonna make a suggestion and see what the rest of you think. I would keep the language that is stricken at the moment under the objective, and I would remove the 4th item. And then we're left with 3 specific action items that we should discuss in terms of whether they're doable and resources, etc. I do not want to spend any time going through the ECAC report or any other report tonight, trying to pick out 2 or 3 items and throw them in here and see what happens. So I would suggest leaving the language that's stricken in under objective and removing the last item.
And what Freka was suggesting was leaving this one in, but have it be more like work with ECAC to identify and act on, or something like that.
Counselor Arte, your hand is up.
Thank you, Lynn. That is exactly my point. We already are doing that in the document. There are several places where the town manager is not requested, but we would prefer that the town manager work with some specific entities. I think we could do the same in this case. In that sense, then we don't have to prioritize.
Counselor Ryan?
And then I would try to apply the criteria that we're supposed to be using for action items. And I don't see how I can apply them to this. This is just a perfectly reasonable but huge list of things that no single one thing we're asking him to focus on. We're just saying, so it seems to violate the whole spirit of what action items are supposed to be. So yes,
I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off.
that's all right. Go ahead.
I agree that this doesn't follow our own rules, and I'm trying to be better at making sure we follow our own rules because I'm trying to be a stickler about it. I do think that when we look at the town manager goal suggestions from ECAC, we could say, so later on in the document, we'll get to counselor comments that specify we should have a number of meetings the town manager should have with counselors per year, et cetera, et cetera. While we do have excellent staff support for ECAC, it seems that, and I guess Athena, actually going to ask for your thoughts here too. I don't want to overstep the staff support that ECAC has, but if ECAC is seeking the town manager's consult, like they want the town manager to consult them regarding specific programs, would it be reasonable to say, you know, the town manager should meet annually with ECAC to talk about the promoting the PACE program or things like that, the way that they're seeking? Can we specify twice per year? Is that appropriate or no? Go ahead, Athena.
The ECAC makes recommendations to the council, no?
That's right. Yes.
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 So for them to request, for the council to tell the town manager that he has to sit with ECAC, I mean, I think it's like, I think this is creating a pretzel in my mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And my thought is, if the ECAC has recommendations about how something is done, how something is implemented, or anything else, they can make those to the town manager, even if it's not in their purview. They can make those to the council, even though it's not in the council's purview. Nobody has to do anything with it. But insisting that the town manager sit with the committee, I think, opens the door for lots of other committees to ask for his time too. And I think that could be a slippery slope. And I don't want to speak for him. He can speak to his own time. But I think it creates a confused process where for the last 5 years, I've been trying really hard to clarify how committees work, how the legislative process works, where things go, how they come back, who recommends what to who, and so forth. So I can't say that I love that idea.
No, it's fine. I think I was trying to help untangle the pretzel a bit in my mind. And as I'm looking through the goals, there are specific programs that they're talking about. So, and basically what they're saying is kind of like when the council wrote the charge for the solar bylaw, we specified a member of ECAC should be on the committee for that. They're saying things like that is what they want, that's a council call, not for committee creation. But the other specific program they mention is the PACE program, and they talk about utilizing ECAC as a resource to help promote the PACE program. So I mean, I think that that's where maybe it's so minor that we don't need it in here. My concern is I don't want to, sometimes with these goals, it can feel like, because sometimes it is stated that if something's not in the goals, it can't be pursued. And my worry is that, Lynn, I vehemently disagree with you that we have done what we need to do with regards to climate action goals. I think there's an incredible amount more we could be doing, but are we cutting ourselves off at the knees here by not leaving space for things to come up as ECAC sees fit? So I'm fine. I guess if we want to take this out, it's not specific, that's fine. I think the parts where it is, yeah, I'll stop there. Councilor Ryan, your hand's up.
We're doing this on the fly. There's a process. ECAC reports to the council. It can lobby the council. It can lobby Paul. The fact that none of us are in a position to speak directly to their recommendations is on us, not on them. But we can't resolve that tonight, and I don't think we should. And I think this should come out.
George, I'm confused by you saying that, because they did lobby us by submitting this report, and we are looking at it. So we are
not. We're just, I mean, well, okay.
Okay, sorry. Athena?
Thank you. I wonder if asking the council to include a town manager goal that tells the town manager to consult with ECAC to promote a program is like circumventing working with the committee's staff liaison. This is something that I'm working on with the Charter Review Committee as well. It's, the committees make requests of staff liaison, and staff liaison works with the rest of the town staff to see if that's something that can be done. If the committee feels that they want to work with staff to promote the PACE program and staff isn't doing that. We don't know why. We don't even know that they aren't doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm, I feel like it's kind of circumventing a normal process, and again, making things feel a little pretzel shaped in
Thank you.
terms of who's doing what.
Yeah, that was my original question. Thank you. Counselor Ete?
I think I was being too conciliatory to Councillor Ryan. If we go back to the document and we look at the town manager suggestions, in what I have in front of me, there are several of the items that I don't think we should be working on. And so in a way, I think, yes, we should. I'll join Councillor Ryan in taking out that section, but for a different reason. I think it would help us if we move past that and go on to more substantive things.
Okay. So I think that we are taking out this section, Lynn.
Are we
Okay.
leaving this in?
And I think you'd have to leave that other language in then, because I do think it's important that we
Yeah.
recognize the role of CARP either under the objective or as an action item. As an action item, it just seems so broad and so unfocused in specifics that it really doesn't belong as an action item, but it's certainly part of our long big picture vision is CARP. And how individual aspects of this get realized is Athena's pointed out, is a complex process. Involves the council, ECAC, and involves the sustainability director, also involves advocates for climate action in the town. Unless someone has some specific, concrete, action that they think the town should take related to climate action, wherever they got it, whether it's from ECAC or wherever else, and then this should not be here. So that's, yeah, I like the way it looks there.
All right. So there is a comment on, I think that we know there's going to be a lot of discussion regarding the inclusion of solar bylaw and battery storage. We will, that is not, I do not believe, but I'm open to this committee disagreeing with me. I do not believe that is a discussion for this committee to have. I think that is one that we need to have at the council, because I think that's just going to come down to a vote of whether or not that's in there or not.
You mind if I put in these columns where they're new? Where we're going to put status.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, for the moment, maybe it'll help with discussion. I'm not sure it should go in, well, I don't know.
No, I don't mean long term. I'm trying to just do something
Well,
to.
this goes to the council eventually, I
Yeah.
assume, when it gets cleaned up. And we have to decide if we want that in there, but yeah, for now, it might be helpful.
Are we ready to move on?
No, we're not. I'm sorry. The very first item, maybe it's me, I can't read at this hour of the night, but I do not understand the English. The phrase "and priorities in the next 3 years for transitions."
This got messed up.
I don't know what that means.
So this statement was supposed to be saying
Well, just,
that,
yeah, put it how you like it, and that.
well,
that's
I had it how I liked it. So
Change it back.
I want to clarify what we meant, because this was the committee. It's what we meant, and then figure out if it's still saying that, because I'm not sure it is.
Okay.
We have a capital inventory.
Yes.
The capital inventory was initially, we had this goal of include this plan to transition, like make the plan to transition our vehicles over. But what we talked about in this committee with Paul was that we aren't ready to make a plan to transition because we don't know what it is that what criteria we have to make that transition. So for example, we can't say in 3 years we'll have an electric snowplow because we don't know what criteria there are for electric snowplows. We don't know what exists. So instead of the plan being in 3 years we switch to an electric snowplow, it would be once there is a reasonably priced electric snowplow, we will switch over in 2 years, or we will switch over in 1 year. Like it's basically saying this is what's needed in order to get us to a 3-year transition plan. But much of this is not available yet. So what we had initially said was update the capital inventory to include criteria for the transition of municipal buildings, vehicles, equipment away from the use of fossil fuels, and the priorities for transitions. So basically saying, what do we want to transition first, and what do we need in order to transition? I don't think 3 years needs to be in there. I think we had 3 years in the past as like that's when we want it to be. Or we were just saying basically focus 3 years out to give kind of a guardrail. I don't feel
So you want
strongly.
to include, let me see if I can help myself and you as well. You want to include criteria for transition, and you also want to include the priorities that will govern these transitions.
Yes.
Or that priority, so you want, and the priorities that will govern the transitions.
Could we just say,
Yeah, go ahead.
could we just say the use of fossil fuels and a plan for transition?
No, because we don't know that that plan is feasible to put in place. So it's not, he may not be able to tell us the plan.
How
This is,
about a plan where feasible?
hang on. So can we, instead of this, could we say to include criteria and priorities for the transition of municipal? Can we just move it to the beginning of the sentence? Would that help clarify this?
Well, I'll try it.
And so then the sentence would end after fossil fuels. Should I read it out loud just for fun?
Update the capital inventory to include criteria and priorities for the transition of municipal buildings, vehicles, and equipment away from the use of fossil fuels.
I think that does it.
Is this something that's doable in a year? Is this something that Paul
Yes,
thinks we can
Paul
do?
said at our meeting, Paul said this was doable. It was the issue was that a plan for transition was not doable because we hadn't even established the criteria.
So
And-
right now, we just want the criteria, and then we want to
And
prioritize that.
What would go first? Next year, maybe we can say,
Okay,
make a plan. But
All
right
right.
Can
now,
I,
yeah,
can
go
I-
ahead, Len.
yeah, I want to suggest that not everything here is going to be achievable, but you can make progress on it.
Okay.
well, I guess the bottom line is it's something we wanted to do this coming year. And
Yes.
I'm not, yeah, I guess this is something we want him to do in the coming year. So
I
that's
think,
why it's
yes,
here.
obviously we can go to a vote, but I think we had the list of make the transition plan for so long, and it was progress is sort of being made, progress is sort of being made. I'm trying to figure out, Lynn, what actually is achievable to get us feeling like we've gotten something to look at.
So somebody says, okay, this was the goal, and we've established that criteria, and thus far, these are the priorities. But, we still have some more
Yeah.
work on the priorities. How do
Sure.
we feel about that?
Well, then if we're doing I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not
yeah,
his
if that's
fault,
where it
right?
gets, that's where it gets. I think
Right.
personally, this is, and based on our conversation with the town manager, this was feasible within the year. But if not, and we can run these by him again, we should.
Okay.
But that's my thought. Any other
Next
comment?
item? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, no,
Mhm.
you're good. There was initially a comment on this just saying, what is this? I think we answered that clearly at council.
Paul seemed to be okay with this. He responded to it. He explained what it was briefly.
It came
and-
from his staff.
Great. So
initially.
again, maybe it doesn't even need to be in here if it's the staff.
Yes, it does, George.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it does.
Stop.
All right, all right. Anyway, I mean, it'll
Yeah.
happen whether it's in here or not. I mean, it's not as if they're sitting in their
But if
offices
it's
with
in
this
here-
on a wall and going, oh, wait a minute, that's not there. So that just
You don't
drop
know
it.
what his house looks like, but
Never
if
mind.
it's
It's
in
there.
here,
Fine.
we
Okay.
can give him credit for it. And this is something that did get brought up at council when we were talking about last year. We did the opt-in energy code. This
Yeah.
is kind of a next step that we can take. So I think for those reasons, it also aligns with our
Good.
our
Okay.
policy. And it's aligned with the CARP and all of that.
Good.
This next one I think is as good as GOL is going to get it, to be honest with you. I think we've just talked about
I
that.
do too.
I
Um,
don't think that we are gonna,
So the issue is what? Whether there should be specific references to specific bylaws? Is that the issue? Or is it a particular bylaw?
that's part of the issue, but the
Okay.
bigger issue is the particulars of it. I think the council understands why
Okay.
we have specifics in here. It's the particulars of it. So for example, a comment, just talked about what the climate bill that the governor just signed and the impact of that. And whether or not it's a good use of our time to focus on this if the bill is going to just say no, which it kind of does.
Okay, if I make one final comment, this is in relation to something that Athena mentioned earlier in the meeting. Imagine we had to prioritize these 3 items. I have no idea what I would do. I think, you know, and I think it's gonna be true as we go through this document, but maybe I'm alone in this and everybody else could easily say, oh, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. But yeah,
I think, George, if you had a bucket of 10 dots and you got to weight your priorities, you got to give all your dots in one place or distribute them however, I
Yeah.
think that you would see dots all over the place, but that, which by the way, this is a method that I highly recommend council consider.
this is, I'm just thinking of the last time I had to do this.
I get paid to
And I
do this,
just-
George. I get
I
paid
know, and I'm
professionally.
somebody, your worst nightmare.
I know,
All
I
these
can tell.
dots and I just
I
walk
know.
away. I just
Oh,
walk
I
away.
know, I know.
just think,
Ladies
You
and
love the
gentlemen,
days
it
when I
is
come in.
already 45 minutes into the
I
meeting.
know.
I am
I'm
aware.
sorry.
Thank you. But
Okay.
George, the point is, I think that while you may not have strong priorities within
Fine, I
one
agree. Okay, let's move
across
on.
document.
Thank you. Let's move on.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now on to community health, safety, community health,
Community
safety,
safety and
social
social justice.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Have you ever heard the saying that a camel is a horse designed by committee?
Yeah, okay.
So we've got questions. There's some questions, some suggestion to remove the senior center ADA van. So I think that'll just be discussion at the council.
I actually, in my things, I said develop a plan for addressing critical space and program needs at the senior center, including an
I think I
ADA
like that.
accessible
It combines
transportation.
them and I'd like, it's still in there, but it combines them into one. And if somebody wants to take it out as part of it, they can bring it up. So if we could just combine those, including an ADA accessible transportation program that runs 5 days a week. Is this getting too much into the weeds? I don't know. That's a debate we're gonna have to have at council. But it's specific, and at the end of the year, we could say whether it happened or it didn't.
Yep, I didn't have a problem with your ADA van thing. I thought it was really really specific.
We may not have any money or who knows what, but
And that was, I think that was the reason why that was the question there.
right, how are we gonna pay for it?
Right.
Yeah.
So there was an added suggestion here. Which
Yeah,
I'm gonna read it. So it said, provide training regarding racial equity rights and other options to the town council, employees, and members of the public. So we had something similar, specific to onboarding, I think, in the area below.
That was for new hires, yes.
Yep.
Why are we talking about that here?
I don't know.
Because it was specifically about racial equity rights and other options. So it was on this topic, and it was to the council, employees, and members of the public.
Well, it's in here somewhere, but where is it? No, maybe it's not in here.
So
Okay, it's a new
we
item.
have offer access to continuing education and then incorporate non-discrimination and implicit biases into onboarding. So we put it firmly within the municipal or administration and leadership.
Right. Exactly.
And this comment, I think that we should put it in here for the council to discuss. This is saying that it should be provided to council, public, and employees.
All right, hold on. I'm going to add it in.
I can read it again if you'd like.
Please give it to me again.
Provide training regarding racial equity, comma, rights, comma, and other options to the town council, comma,
Equity, did you say equity and rights?
equity, comma, rights, and other options to the town council, employees, and members of the public.
Now, I know you don't want us to wordsmith, and maybe that's where we'll just leave this, but I have no idea what other options means. And
I
I'm not quite sure
agree.
I'm not quite sure what rights means here. I can understand racial equity training related to racial equity. I have no idea what training regarding rights is, and I don't know what other options is. So maybe just leave it as it is, and we'll let the council at retreat or some other, let them chew on it there.
I think, can we add a comment in, Lynn, that says needs more specificity?
I think, no,
That what you're saying, George?
I think we just leave it. I
Okay.
mean, unless people think, I don't know what we do. If we have new suggestions, I think it's within the purview of this council to reject them. It's perfectly within our purview to just say, well, you made this suggestion and we just didn't put it in. And then it's up to the counselor to bring it up at some higher level. But maybe the most diplomatic strategy, unless it's really something we can't understand, we'll just leave it in there.
Can
But
I
it's new.
suggest,
Yep, sorry, Lynn.
this is one of those in which we have an awful lot of goals. I mean, of
Oh, I know, but what,
it is huge.
I know.
And interestingly enough, only, well, no, though, several of them are new. 4 of them are new.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about the new ones if we get a chance.
But I think that, I mean, George, do you want to talk about them with us, or do you want to talk about
I
them?
want to talk about you, because maybe
Okay.
they can come out here, or maybe they can get combined. And also, I have to make a rationale for them. And if you're not impressed by the rationale as a committee, you can just throw it out.
But I don't think,
And that's fine, but we do
Yeah.
need to talk about it.
happy to discuss. I mean, and nothing is new here since we've discussed it last. I think my
Right.
issue is that these aren't ads necessarily from us, so we don't get to hear the rationale from the counselors who sent them in.
That's why they're gonna have to make that case either at the retreat or at the council.
Right.
And you're saying, let's leave it in so that they can make the case.
That is my thought, because
Yeah, I
otherwise we're
think
just gonna
so.
have to deal with, why'd you take it out? I'm gonna put it back in. Lynn, can you
Exactly.
scroll up for a second? There was a larger comment on this one that I wanted to just read the committee. It says, I did not see, and so this was a comment under the objective here, under community health, community safety. I did not see anything in the action items relating to food insecurity, medical care, and police, fire, EMS, all of which impact community health, community safety, and social justice. Perhaps add goals related to the Amherst Survival Center, Musanti Center, and keeping police, fire, EMT staff numbers up. There's also an overlap between community safety and capital projects, such as the new fire station in South Amherst, and community and strategic relations, such as UMass donating ambulance, but I don't know how to address these overlaps. This committee and counselors who sent in goals didn't have any specific ones relating to food insecurity, medical care, or police, fire, EMS. This counselor did not suggest any. I think they were just noting that. But Lynn, I don't know if we need to, I don't know if we need to add that in. I wanted to share it with the committee. There was no suggestion of a goal. It was just I don't see anything and perhaps add, but there wasn't a suggestion of them. So I wanted to know if this committee has one. Otherwise, I can let this counselor know this committee didn't come up with anything, but they are welcome to send one in. But I don't think that we should add in the comments here.
I mean, we're supposed to be talking about actual action items. And I understand they made a comment about the general, what's generally missing or what's not here, which is nice. But if they don't have an actual item they want to put in it.
And
Yeah.
we didn't, I wanted to
And
ask.
we don't have any to offer ourselves, so
Do we
I don't
have
know.
any to offer?
Right.
No.
I don't at this time. Counselor Ate.
I was searching for this in administration and leadership. We have maintain and continue to improve the delivery of municipal items. Actually, I'll come to that when we get to that.
I can hardly wait for that one too, maybe for
This,
different reasons.
I think, already covers that. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think the one point that I thought was interesting is this council has focused so much on housing. We have not talked about food insecurity. I don't have a specific goal to offer. I did note that it's not a conversation we often have because I think we have community organizations that
address it. Right.
I mean, the major way we deal with food insecurity is to give money to other organizations.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
right. We're not.
And I think that's getting beyond the goals.
But, and well, we used to have goals in here about the mobile market. They were achieved, right? Like that's, I guess it's not something we've never talked about. So, fair. Okay.
Can we start at the top and work our way down this list, please? I don't want to
Yes,
jump around.
I'm not trying to jump around. I wanted to just read that initial comment. I'm going down my list. I apologize. So, can you go back Upland, I think. All right. There
Okay.
weren't any comments on
I think
the
press is fine.
press one.
Yeah.
There was a comment on continue to undertake a review of public safety protocols. The question was, how would this be measured based on our persnicketyness of how do we know that this has been achieved in a year? So again, if we don't have a specific thing that needs to be accomplished, we automatically give a checkbox for this and we automatically say, yeah, like, and I know, George, you're going to say it's not all about the evaluation, but
No,
it-
I have a very specific suggestion to make
Okay,
this an
go ahead.
action item.
Go ahead.
Strike continue to undertake and insert complete. This has been going on long enough. So what we're asking the town manager to do as an action item for the coming year is complete a review of public safety protocols. Boom.
Okay.
So
I agree.
that's that. Complete the review. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good.
I don't know where the next one came from, but we'll discuss that at council.
Is this the youth committee?
Yeah, and cost and all that. I mean, Lynn
Yeah.
raised a very good point. How would it be paid? And
Well, so and there were suggested edits to that, which was to add in for LGBTQ plus youth and BIPOC residents. So after council, it would say for LGBTQ plus
Boy, I really object to this.
youth and BIPOC residents. So, and then it says, nope, sorry, that goes after the first instance of council, advisory council.
so just before the end of the first clause. Okay.
So
Create and
let me-
appoint an advisory council for,
LGBTQ plus.
so this is for, obviously, okay, fine. Okay.
And what this counselor explained was that we constantly are saying we need to do youth outreach, we need to do outreach to the BIPOC residents, we need to do outreach to LGBTQ plus community. And the counselor suggested that having a commission or council, excuse me, advisory council would be a more efficient way to seek that input.
that is not what Northampton's is. Northampton's is all youth. Just
Yeah.
to be clear.
Okay.
I just met some of them the other night, and
So it's a youth council and it's welcome to all youth in the community. It's not specifically targeted at a particular group of the members of the community. And again, the question is just staff resources, money, time. Is this a problem? Does Paul want to weigh in? Does anybody have any knowledge as to how much staff time this would take and who would undertake it? Who would Paul appoint to do this? Who would undertake this?
we're not going to have that discussion.
Not
That's why
here.
I put the word new.
Okay, so we
So
have that
can we
discussion
put in
somewhere
the
else. We don't have
edits?
it here.
Okay, I want to call on Counselor Ete, but could we put in the edits that this counselor requested for discussion?
I would
So-
I would not want to do that.
Okay.
If they want to raise it at council, fine, or if they want to do it at retreat, but I would not be comfortable with that myself.
It's for, not of. Those are different.
Okay, we're gonna put it in anyway, all right?
Well, because George, I guess here's the thing though, George. I hear you, and
Okay, that's all right. Just put it in.
people
and
are
then
sending me
we'll
their
have it
edits like I'm asking them to, and then I think it's if we're in
It
feels like
doesn't, just because
cherry-
just because they make a comment doesn't mean it gets into the document. I mean, we just ask for their comments and we look at them and we listen and we discuss and then we make our decision. We're the committee, they're not.
Okay.
So
Would
we're
we
not
like to vote?
obliged to put
Would
it
we
in.
like to do a straw poll as a committee as to whether to include this insertion or not?
I think
object
we
to
need
it.
to decide, are we just going to pile in everybody's comments
Help
and
us
try to
calculate.
resolve wherever there's differences? And if we are, then we're leaving it like this.
I
And
am
if it-
inclined to now go back to raising hands because Counselor Ete's hand has been up for a while and he has not been able to speak.
He's just too polite.
or the rest of us are just rude. Counselor
That's
Ette?
true. I would say I am rude. That is correct. And impatient.
Um,
Who I am.
putting that back in is not just putting that back in right now. It's putting something that we had taken out because it was initially in, and we took it out because it was vague and imprecise, and it didn't seem to cohere with that entire piece. And so I am inclined not to have that in, and if it's going to, a case could be made during council, and I would like to see that case on how you're going to have, on one hand, a youth uh, um, committee or council, and at the same time add some specific groups. So we already took it out. We're putting it back in, which I think defeats the purpose and the work that we had already done.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that what's clear to me is that our process generally is challenged by the fact that this whole thing goes back to council, and if we don't put it in here, it will just get added in back at council again. And then the council will discuss it. I'd rather have a full I would rather err on the side of putting in more suggestions and having people take them out at council than having to go through and say, you took this out, but you didn't take this out. You took, I think if we can lend specificity to it, that's helpful. But I do think to remove something that someone has tried again and again to put in and not have a full council discussion on it is just redundant. Because I think they're just going to bring it back up. I do want to point out one quick thing, Lynn. That is not what the comment said exactly, and I just want to clarify. For LGBTQ plus, comma, youth, comma, and BIPOC residents. George, go ahead.
Well, I've already said it. So this is our document ultimately. Comes from our committee. So
Okay.
we make the
Does the-
decisions. If they don't like it, they can do whatever they want. But
Which they did. I'm reading out the comments that folks sent in again. They sent it in again. If this committee chooses to strike it, we can strike it. But I think we need to then we can just do a quick straw poll now if we want to strike it or not. And hear what folks have to say. Lynn.
Since we didn't discuss it at the council, I think we should just leave it in and move on.
okay.
Just one more quick edit. It's similar in structure to the Northampton Youth Advisory Council. And we did have a question from another counselor asking what would this council do? So clearly this will be a conversation. And then the other comment was, should we do this? Should it be here? Or who appoints? Should it be moved to leadership or community relationships?
I think we can leave all those off.
Okay.
So,
George?
so is it appropriate for me or any of us to ask the question, who on staff is going to do this and how much it's going to cost for any of these items, not just for this,
Yes.
but for anything? So I
Yes.
will ask this question, who on staff do we imagine would take this on?
I don't know the answer to that. This was
Yeah,
not my.
and that's
It's
troubling to me. Okay, all right. So we're
It's
putting
troubling that
things
I don't
in,
know the answer.
right. And I don't like it. I don't like
Well, it
it.
wasn't, I didn't, I'm the messenger in this particular instance. Lynn, before you scroll past this last one, the same question is that George was just asking about the prior one was asked about this one of what is the cost? How extensive is this? How are both of these? And can they both be done in the same year?
It
I'm sorry,
seems to me
talking about-
that
what are you
this
talking
is this
The
is a
complete-
question for all of these, so I don't see repeating it.
Um,
It has to be a filter through which we make decisions.
Cost, yes. I do think the question of can you do both in a year is a logistical question about this program that I don't know the
I'm
answer.
confused. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the complete streets tier.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't realize we were
Sorry.
talking about that. I had no
Yep.
idea what we were talking about. I would
Sorry,
like
George.
to speak to this since I'm the one who put it in. And I actually am here.
George, please
So-
speak to it, but know that you're going to have to speak to it again at council because, yeah, go ahead.
I know. Well, this item and the previous item are related to what's called the Complete Streets Program. Complete Streets program is something that we started to get ourselves into. We did the first step. There are 2 steps remaining. The 2 items in here are the 2 steps that remain that would allow us to apply for funding up to $500,000 over a 4-year period for the kinds of things that, for instance, we're going to be doing at the East Common. So this is not just something arbitrarily thrown in here just because we got nothing else to do. It is geared to help us get some money to pay for what's going to be a very expensive streetscape project outside of the school and the East Common. So these 2 could be put together. They require the work of DPW and staff, and probably, if it's created by this time, the Transportation and Parking Commission and or TAC. But it doesn't cost that much. I don't know about money, but it will take some staff time. And in my conversations with staff, it is doable. So that would be my argument at council, and that's my argument here, and that's why it is here. And it might make sense to combine them into one item because they're both necessary. One way is just to say the complete streets process for the town of Amherst. But I think it's helpful to be more precise.
Yeah,
So
I agree, Lynn. I wouldn't put that in yet. Sorry.
yeah, I wouldn't. I think that would be replace these 2. But so I would take this one and the other one and put them in a single item.
Which other one are you talking about?
Where is it? I don't know. It's somewhere in here.
Because George, if there, this is where I have trouble with numbers of goals versus content of goals. I would rather have 2 smaller goals broken out separately. Like if it's the bicycle and pedestrian safety plan, I'd rather have that as a separate item and then this as another than combine them into one.
Okay.
It's the same amount of work. It's just
That's
broken
true.
out into 2 steps. So
I agree.
that's how I'm looking at the consolidation here.
That is the other item, and it's in here separately. And maybe you could at least put them next to each other so that when we talk about it, they would be one after the
Initially,
other.
these were alphabetized. That was how they were organized. Even though that led to more problems for me, but they can go in whatever order. It doesn't matter.
I would ask that as a favor.
Yeah,
but
I'm not going to mess with that right now.
fine.
No. I will do that. I was not asking you. Before we go, but I wouldn't move that. Just for
Time
what-
check, 7:30.
Thank you. I see it.
We're doing the best we can.
There was a comment here that said might also add an action item to reduce speed limits to 25 miles an hour on additional densely settled roads. This isn't something that the town manager does, in my understanding of the law. So I'm unclear on how this would be a town manager goal.
It seems to me that however, we need to work with our staff to do the work to get there, don't we?
It would probably come through TSO.
It would be a council request.
Yes, right.
change
It's
speed
it's
limit.
not something the manager, right. So
But
why
then
wouldn't we-
once the council makes the request, DPW and police need to do some work.
There's a whole process that I've sent along to this counselor. Counselor Ete?
If the council makes a request.
Oh, you're saying add that to the thing?
What should it say, please?
It was tongue in cheek, but perhaps we could add that because if the council doesn't make the request, the town manager can't do anything about it. Yeah.
Fair.
There's no sense putting that in. All of these are if the
Right,
council makes a
right,
request.
so, right. Again, we're trying to get priorities. We're trying to say, these are things that really are important. We want Paul to focus on. And we can't get into hypotheticals.
Can I please have somebody repeat that sentence for me?
It's not even phrased as a goal, but yes. Okay, to reduce speed limits to 25 miles an hour on additional densely settled roads. I think next time the way we should do this is everyone submits their goals and puts their name next to it. New process so that we have to speak to them at council clearly.
If I may, I thought
Yes,
we
sir.
just agreed that this is not something the town manager can do. So
Yep,
how can
so-
we put it into the goals?
Yeah, so I think that this is something, if we're erring on the side of putting everything in, I will go to the mat for this one coming out because this is dictated by more laws than we have control over and is not something that the manager can do on his own. Counselor Arte is absolutely correct that this is an if the council requests it. And some of these are the council requesting it, right? Like this is saying that the council is now requesting this because they don't require a formal request from the council. Like complete the Complete Streets program, right? That doesn't need a formal, my understanding is that doesn't need a formal referral or anything from the council, whereas this action would. And I hesitate to put it in here and have that be construed as a request from council when there's so much more that would need to be discussed about it, but I don't know.
Isn't that our job as this GOL, knowing what is what, to sort of filter this a bit, as opposed to just putting everything in the kitchen sink in here?
Yeah, I think I can reach back out to this counselor in particular because they hadn't proposed it as an actual goal and say, please send me the actual goal language if they would like. Lynn?
Either we put it in, everything that is in here is the council asking the town manager to do something.
Right?
So it doesn't matter whether we have to ask him through a special way or through the goal setting. We have to ask. So it doesn't matter at this case. If it's a goal, it means town resources are going to be used. That's all.
Okay.
So what is the sentence?
That is the sentence.
Reduce
That's
speed limits
all.
on densely settled roads to 25 miles per hour. Okay, got it. Are there any others for this one?
The other comment, someone said they don't know what youth empowerment means. What's the objective? I think that's going to be a discussion at council.
Yes.
And then other one was, sorry, I'm trying to, the bicycle pedestrian and network plan, the suggestion was it should include a schedule and cost estimate for building out such a network. So I think that's the same comment as before. We need to talk about cost. I don't think that there's anything beyond there.
Agreed.
And then one of the other comments about youth empowerment was that this is less important than starting master plan work. There was a suggestion to begin work on the master plan which is due to start in what, 2 years? Is that right? 20.
It is.
So that was a suggested addition. Sorry, George. Somehow it's getting longer.
Yes, I mean, this is really kind of sad, but that's what it is, I guess.
Well, but it's
not your fault. That's just what it is, but
it will be culled, I think, pretty aggressively.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay. I think that looks like,
I mean, work has begun on the master plan. It's in the it's in the hands of the planning department. As soon as the planning director is appointed, it will proceed. I don't know what we're telling him here. This is not right. And what in the next year is supposed to be accomplished? Well, we don't know because we don't actually do the actual work that involves working and creating the master plan.
It's actually a very complicated process.
Yeah,
and
so
it requires a lot of resources,
right.
including an outside committee.
Right.
Pause for 1 second. I realized I was missing something. I'm really sorry. Can we jump back up to the Crest one? There was a suggestion of adding at the end and present to the council for discussion and possible action.
And someone remove that.
Should we remove? I think we should remove that.
Is
You
that the
had
suggestion
suggested
on
adding
that?
it back in.
It's in there.
If I did, I didn't mean to. I wanted to
Oh, okay.
take it out.
I was reading your comment.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Okay.
All of
All right,
these.
someone wants to take it out. All right.
Yeah,
Totally
all
fine.
of these are present to the council and look for
Okay.
possible next action.
And then the other comment was on the bicycle and pedestrian network plan. Oh no, that was just proposing to delete that. Sorry. All right, I think we're done with that on all fronts from my end in terms of comments. Okay. So this was where Lynn, I apologize. There's so many comments, they're getting messy. The master plan goal action item was intended to be under housing and economic vitality.
Mhm.
begin work on updating the master plan. There was a question regarding the meet with UMass,
Yes.
regarding how is this measured?
I think, yeah, and I had a suggestion, to try and make this more concrete or specific. I don't know what people will think about it, but it kind of relates to the question of how you're gonna measure it.
Yeah.
And the suggestion was language to the effect of essentially developing, how's it phrased? Maybe identify new economic development and housing opportunities in conversation with, or you could begin, in conversation with UMass, Amherst College, and Hampshire College, identify new economic development and housing opportunities, including parcels for possible housing development.
George, I think that's fine. I was gonna add a minimum of twice per year to make it a measure. That I believe is what's dictated in our strategic partnership agreement with UMass specifically. We don't have them with the other two colleges, but my suggestion was to add in a minimum of 2 times per year.
So
To-
maybe at the top, meet at a minimum of 2 times a year with, so you could put it at the time
Yeah.
reference at the very top. Meet at a
Twice
minimum
annually
twice annually.
at a minimum, I guess.
To identify new economic development and housing opportunities, including, I guess you could repeat identifying again. I hate that, but that's all right. That's me. Identifying parcels for possible housing development. Now, yeah. And it could just be focused on housing. This is economic vitality in housing, but it could just be, for this coming year, let's just focus on housing. That's
It could
another
be.
thought.
Counselor Ete has his hand up.
I see. I was letting Counselor Ryan finish. Counselor
I'm
Ete?
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Counselor Ete, go ahead.
Is the measurement the number of times, or is the measurement the identification of housing opportunities?
Yeah, my worry is that we can't, it's not only the town manager's prerogative to identify housing opportunities, and so I don't think that should be the measure. I think that we can
Mhm.
only dictate that he meet with them and try. And so I think the measure should be the twice annually and that this is the topic, but I worry about having the measure be having identified that because we know that that's not on him. Counselor
Should
Arte, is
we-
that what you're kind of getting
Should
at?
should we put the word to identify possible new economic development and housing opportunities,
Well, we have possible for the housing.
but take it
So-
away there?
Okay, and just put it all for both.
Yeah.
Identify possible new economic development and housing opportunities. And maybe leave it at that. And
Counselor
take
Arte,
out the
did that
rest.
address your
Just
concern?
ended opportunities.
I don't think so. I do know that 2 is quite measurable. But on the other hand, it's possible that nothing gets done
Yep.
in the meetings that we are aware of. And if we remove the time to focus on identification, I'm not sure that that would persuade some of the councillors who want something more robust. So I think it's good that we have both the time and the identification, but this, like many of the things in this list, I'm looking forward to the discussion on it.
This one's hard because where's the control line? All
Yeah.
right, we got a little bit more time on this. There were questions about the cost associations with some of these, and um, sorry.
I'm sorry, we're talking about the next two items now?
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on comments here. There are some suggestions for deleting. Okay. There was a comment at the bottom on the proposed revisions to zoning bylaws.
Mhm.
The bottom one to support
Yeah.
economic development. That said, the comment said, housing development alone will not change the dynamic of how development is unfolded with an overwhelming focus on student housing. In my opinion, we need a greater focus on developing homes for long-term year-round residents, but I realize others may disagree. Again, that was just a comment, so I think I will rely on that counselor to bring that forward at the council meeting. This was something GOL had talked about. We consciously changed this away because we talked about what was under the control of the town manager.
Right.
All right,
Um,
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I just had a comment for the final item, but I'll wait.
No,
until-
go ahead. That was it. That was all I had,
So it
actually.
says propose revisions to the zoning bylaws that would, oh, I'm sorry, it's the final, it's proposed revisions to the zoning bylaws to increase and support economic and housing development where supported by the master plan. Or as a recommendation or a suggestion. And I just wanted to throw it out there. And actually for the thoughts of this committee,
Did you say that again, George?
just add the phrase at the end, where supported by the master plan.
I like that.
Is this here?
Yes, that's right. Lynn. Where supported by the master plan.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it might make it more palatable to certain people.
Right.
And maybe not, but that was just a suggestion. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else under this? I have gone through all my comments on housing.
No. Let's move on to administration and leadership.
All right, so, excuse me. There was a
Yep.
broad comment on this category that said there's very little here to address concerns staff have brought forward. Why are we not adding specifics related to that concern? And then they had several suggested additions that I think, some of which I think we deleted and they're asking be put back in. Including speed up the hiring process for vacant positions. And then we had, this was, I can't tell why it's not here when it was deleted. We had offer access to continuing education, supervision and leadership training to all town staff.
It's up above, explore strategic options for
Thank
making
you,
it a
thank
more
you, thank
attractive
you.
town, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so because this person had wanted to add, ensure all town staff are offered and have access to continuing education and leadership training. But I think that is what,
That's what this is.
yeah, because we had said like we couldn't guarantee that right off the bat. Counselor Ete?
With regard to speed up hiring process, that I believe was something we talked about.
Yes.
And again, since this has been given as a contribution, perhaps we should put it in, but it still runs into the limits that we had from the discussion, which is there might be a supply issue. And so you can't speed up what can't be sped.
I had a big problem with this when it was discussed. Where was it? Oh, I think it was actually at a different committee, I believe this was discussed. Because we also don't want to speed up hiring processes so much that we invite bias into the process. Having things posted for a certain amount of time helps you get a diverse candidate pool, all of these that are just best practices. But I think that again, I think for me, this is more of a learning moment about how I've facilitated this discussion and how it's more useful for us to put it in and take it out at council because, yep. The other thing that this person had put in before, or I think they had suggested go in before, and Lynn, I think you spoke to this one, was undertake a review of salary and supervisory responsibilities to ensure there is no gender bias in salaries, promotion, or job responsibilities.
Undertake a review of salary
And supervisory responsibility
advisory responsibilities.
to ensure there is no gender bias in salaries, promotions, or job responsibilities. George, I'm so sorry. I didn't intentionally try to add so much more. Go ahead, George.
And job responsibilities.
Yes.
Yeah,
job
well,
respons-
let's finish this one first, so the language is right, yeah. I'd like to, when we're ready, I want to go to the item just above, speed up
Okay.
hiring process.
Yeah.
And I would ask that that be taken out.
Can you speak to why? I don't disagree with you. I'm struggling with this one too, but yeah.
It's not specific. It's totally just, how would you measure this? How would you measure?
You've convinced me. I agree that it's not following our criteria. I do think that we are just going to have it added back in again,
Fine, it's okay.
but-
Let him do
but
it. Let him do it. I mean, I don't
you
think
are
we'll
right.
do it,
If
actually.
we
I
are
think a lot of this,
following,
I don't think people will not even notice, but we do have a responsibility, I think, to follow our own guidelines, and
I think
this
you're right.
doesn't need it, so get it out.
I think you are right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Some of these others I think also are going to be a challenge, but I mean, in the end, I guess Paul will tell us what he did or didn't do in terms of, say, anti-racism training in the onboarding process. He'll probably, I don't know, time and money. We'll take this up, I'm sure, at council at retreat, but the cost and expense of doing a review of salary and supervisory responsibilities, are they going to have to hire another consultant? Anyway, that's something we'll have to talk about. So can we take that out or not?
yes, I think that we did.
It's still there.
Where?
It
Where?
says maintain and continue to improve the delivery of municipal
No.
services.
I thought you were talking about speed up the hiring process.
No.
Okay, well, hang on one second, because there was a suggestion to add to that one. So before we
Well,
take
maybe
it
it's
out,
maybe more specific, then it could stay.
maybe. Wait, no, Lynn, I thought we just said we weren't going to put that in.
Okay, we are taking that out.
Yeah,
Okay,
because it's not specific.
Okay.
We'd have to, and honestly, the first step there would be we actually have to measure the time it takes to hire every position and do a study of that. So there's steps to take before that. But there was a suggested add to maintain and continue to improve the delivery of municipal services,
Yeah.
which was and implement better ways of communicating what departments manage which services. And where and how complaints or requests for help regarding those services should be made.
So it's combining the one above with this. I like
Yeah.
them.
Looks like that.
Which services?
I think I
Yeah, that's a repeating of what's above.
have
So-
issue with combining them because I think we're just,
No, it should be either,
I
Sorry.
think they should be separate in terms of evaluating. I don't think they should be combined. I think we're making this into more of a mushy action item. I think these are two separate things.
All right,
But it's my
I'll
take.
take it back out.
Counselor Ryan?
Determine a method by which the town communicates to the public. Okay, it's specific. What departments manage which services? I'm thinking it's already there. I guess some people feel that they can't find what they're looking for, particularly say if they want to make a complaint about a nuisance house, or they want to make, there's a trash a sign is missing or whatever. Is this a priority for the coming year? And is this a real crisis or problem in town?
I think that is a good
Again,
question.
I guess
too.
you're going to say we'll talk about this at retreat. So-
I am.
Yes.
Because yeah. I
But
Am I-
let's at least not duplicate. So let's take it out so it doesn't duplicate.
I don't think we should duplicate. Counselor Arte, then Lynn. Sorry, Counselor Arte, go ahead.
I had language that for me seemed to be clearer.
Okay.
which is clarify to the public what departments manage which services and where and how requests for help regarding those services should be made.
Clarify to the public,
What departments
manage which
which
services
services.
and where and how complaints or requests for those help regarding those services should be made.
Yes, and speaking to this,
I like that.
it's you can find what you're looking for on the website, but it's like going to the thrift store. You don't know what you're going to find. And I think we could maybe just it might be some slight redesign of the website, or there might be some portal that has all that information. There's something that could be done. I don't think it's a heavy lift to make it easier and less would I say burdensome for members of the public to find answers to questions they may have.
Counselor Ryan?
So if I may, we have a committee called Town Services and Outreach. And we just today had a long presentation by our new communications director. It is, I would think, part of the job of TSO to address exactly this issue. And we would work with the communications director through Paul to address exactly this issue. But it's really on us to take the initiative. So what this says to Paul is, I guess, have the communications director come and talk to TSO about a way to address this problem. In the interest of trying to reduce the number of already out of control action items, this is another example where, in fact, the council could do something instead of turning to Paul and saying, well, why don't you do this and this and this and this and this? This is something that's perfectly appropriate for TSO to address and deal with.
But he,
I disagree. Sorry.
Okay,
Go
fine.
ahead, go ahead, Lynn.
No, fine.
but he still needs to say to the communications director, you need to spend time doing that. So it's
Well,
a
that's what,
reason.
yeah, you could say to TSO, my communications director's too busy, she can't do it.
Right.
So, anyway,
George.
fine. It stays in, but again, I think there are a number of things here that the council should be doing, but we're just throwing it in here and saying, okay, Paul, do this and this and this and this. Anyway.
So I do want to move us on. It's time to switch over to our resolution and talk of the future here. I know we're not through this, but
I'm
George.
sorry, but I did, the item that I asked to be deleted has still not been deleted.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Which
Which one?
is,
Maintain and continue to improve the
Ah.
delivery of municipal, please get that out,
why?
because it doesn't mean anything. I mean, unless you have something specific in mind, like maintain and continue to improve the delivery of X.
So
mean,
if you
what-
go back,
Yeah.
Stop, everybody stop. Sorry.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't done with my comment from before, and then we're gonna go in line really quickly, George. I'm gonna come back to you in a second.
Thank you.
George, my only other comment on your first thing about the communicate. First off, I don't like the shift to clarify. I prefer the determine a method by which, and we can keep this and have this discussion at council, but I think that they mean two different things. Clarify to me means explain to people that this already exists, and determine a method means find a better way to do this. Because I don't, when we talked about this last time, we talked about the idea of almost like a tree, right? Like I have an issue with the street light, I go here. I have an issue with this, I go here. That is a new, to my knowledge, method of communicating which departments do what thing. So I don't see these as the same. I don't see this as a simple clarification of language. I see this actually as changing the meaning. And George, to your point, my concern with taking this out would be actually something that you mentioned is a really good use for this document, which is to communicate to residents what we're going to get done in the coming year. And this is one that residents ask for often, is help me figure out how to navigate this better.
Oh, that, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
We're still talking about the same item, which is the first item, which Breck's just asked us to do an edit to, which is, I don't really care one way or the other, but that we just edited it. I'm fine with that.
I
I
hear you.
understand the public's concern. I share it. I think TSO could deal with it, but that's fine.
I
I'm
hear you.
talking about a different item.
I
So,
know you are, but
Okay, fine.
I hadn't finished my comment on the first item before you went.
I know, I
I
agree.
wanted to finish that.
Good.
I'm gonna
Okay.
lower my hand, and then I'm gonna go to Counselor Ate. Is it on this first one, or are we gonna shift down to the maintain? jump into the maintain and continue to improve. And this will probably be our pause point for tonight, just so folks know.
I find tonight's meeting fascinating. And I think part of it is it's revealing even to us as councillors the tension of what exactly the council does and what the town manager does. And so I think this is a good opportunity to take a step back, and wherever we end in terms of what we're looking at with the document, think about all the things that are listed on the action items and consider what are the things that the council should initiate first before it gets to become an action item for the town manager. If that's the case, then there are a lot of things that might actually get removed, not because they won't get to the town manager, but maybe because they don't need to be in the town manager goals. But I think in just taking in what we have in this meeting, I think it's a good idea that we have all these things being listed, even if most of them are going to get taken out by the next council meeting.
Hear you. I think my issue there is our timing. It then becomes hard for someone to bring something up in a council term if it hadn't already been in the goals, because then they have to wait until the next round of goals to get it into the goals so they can move it forward. So I think we run into a chicken and egg situation a lot, and I that there's this just a big tension there that we kind of are constantly reckoning with. So Lynn, can you save this and send it to me, please? George, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
George wants to
guess
take
it's
out
just
that item. Sorry, you're right. You're
Well,
right.
no, but it's just, I spent a fair amount of time today going through this document.
Yep.
And I appreciate the fact that other counselors have sent written comments, but we spend most of our time trying to decipher and intuit and understand their comments, and have little time for us to actually go over what and I assume Lynn and I assume Freke have also prepared. There's still a number of items that I would like us to look at. I guess what you're saying to me is, well, this is going to go to a retreat and you can bring them up there. But I guess I'm unhappy that this committee, is not really being able to do its work because we're spending so much time trying to decipher and interpret comments written to us in the last day or two. Meanwhile, the committee members who spent a fair amount of time going through this draft in the thought that we could try and improve it and get it ready for council review, wherever that takes place, we're going to have to stop. And I don't want to stop, even though it's late and I have other things to do. But I guess we're going to leave this thing half done, and it's going to go half done to the council, and they're going to ask about anyway. So I'm not happy. I'm sorry.
George, what would you suggest as a resolution? What resolution would you
I
like
think we have to get through this damn document tonight. And I know people don't want to do it, and that's fine. I'm only one vote, but we need to go through the whole thing. We're almost done, but we need to go through it and at least respect the work of the members of the committee who actually went through the thing and made comments and changes and suggestions in the naive assumption that they'd get to talk about them tonight. But instead, we're going to rush off and do a proclamation and so forth. So that's my problem.
So thank you for sharing. Are there areas that we in climate action, community health, housing, and admin that you did not get to discuss that you would like to discuss?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm
Sorry.
gonna say really quickly is we do have a proclamation to get through. That is timely because we need to get this to the council for the first meeting of the council to pass. We can continue to work through these goals. I wanted to spend some time figuring out what our path forward is because it feels like we're spending a lot of time on the goals, which we should, but we also have a number of other things to do. So I am open to going back to this and finishing it out. You're right. We only have 2 other areas to go through. But I am asking folks to, I guess, be judicious with your thoughts on the proclamation later if we do that. And please, I'm hoping that folks are not holding back their own comments as we go through this. I'm adding in other comments as we go, just because I have them in front of me. But I hope that people are also talking through their own thoughts. Lynn, if you could pull up the document again, let's try to finish it out. And George, I hear you. I think the end of the year got busy. We tried to do an extra meeting. It didn't work out.
Well,
We
first of all, only one voice, so if the committee wants to move on, they should move on. I'm just expressing my unhappiness with the fact that I spent a lot of time on this, and not that my thoughts are any better than anybody else's, but I would like to at least get through it. And I don't know, maybe nobody else has any other thoughts, and so we can end here. And at this point, so yeah.
No, I appreciate that everyone put a lot of work into this, and I'd like to hear them. So let's move through and just try to be judicious in our comments. Okay, sorry, George, you were talking, we were up at, you wanted to take out maintain and continue to improve?
The argument simply was that this is not something that can be, by any stretch of the imagination, evaluated or, it is not specific. It lacks any specificity. So if somebody had some specificity, that would be great. Otherwise, I would suggest it should come out.
Counselor Ate? Oh, okay. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Oh, no,
Oh, no. Yes, no, yep. Lynn?
The only reason I support leaving it in is because if you look back at the town manager's self-evaluation this last year, he speaks to many different systems that were worked on this year that were not highlighted, but would fall in this category.
And I say, good for him. That's great. That's wonderful. But I don't see why it has to be in the goals.
Right. Well,
He's
so
gonna continue to
put
do
a
it
strike
anyway.
through, but leave it there.
Okay. I mean, if
Okay.
there's something specific that somebody wants to say he should work on, great. But if not, I mean, he does this and our staff do this all the time. And they, it's, I think we were really well served, but yeah, anyway, that was the only thought with that.
Okay.
I had a bunch of things under infrastructure management, maintenance and land, because this is a really important category. And we haven't even gotten to it yet.
Yeah,
Comprehensive agenda.
let's get there
No,
now. So
agenda.
we're in, yeah, our lines got, Lynn, I think our lines got broken here.
They
Infrastructure.
did, and that's why I wrote this little note, because I don't want to mess with format.
That's fine. I'll mess with format, but if you, okay, so yeah, so starting with assess current condition. Counselor Ate?
I raised my hand and dropped it because I got confused on in notes that I'd written. So I want to speak about what we had, which was is it maintain and continue to improve?
Yep.
So the comments that I'd written down is, would the town manager fail, quote unquote, if he only maintains the delivery? What is the relationship between the two parts of that phrase? So you can improve or you can maintain. What would be a passing grade?
I think that was a similar question that Counselor Ryan was raising is, there isn't a specific aspect of this. There isn't a checkbox other than maintain, and also maintain every single part, is improve every single part, to your point. So I think that is, both of you have highlighted the ways that this is incongruous, doesn't line up with our own criteria for what an action item should be. I don't know, Counselor Ate, I don't know that I could specify within this right now. Yeah. Okay. So it's currently struck, just to follow up on that. So there was a suggested add here regarding the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, could we start with that?
Yep. The suggested add was including a plan to fund improvements and repairs. This is something that kind of could go with everything. I don't know if we want to specifically call it out here, but because that's presenting the results, it could make sense to include that.
So if you actually, yeah, sorry, Lynn. Go ahead.
No.
Okay, go ahead, George.
What has to happen here is that they have to get a consultant who will assess and present a plan for how to address the problems of the wastewater treatment plant. Apparently they have the money, I believe, for the consultant, but it won't happen until the middle of this coming year. And then it'll take the consultant probably many months, maybe more, to actually propose a plan for how to deal with this. So I'm not sure we're really assessing I mean, it's in the works, but I think it's here because in the coming year, we would like to know that this is underway, even if we may not yet have a full plan. And then what will have to happen is they will have to do a rate study on the water system. And the rate study should happen after they actually get a plan for the treatment for the treatment plant. So I don't know how to word that. I think all I'm asking, or I was asking, was that in the coming year, we be presented with a plan for how we're going to deal with this. So
is your issue with the feasibility? What I'm understanding that you're saying is that your issue is the feasibility of what's currently written here, and your solution is to what's your solution?
I guess you now have some language added, including a plan to fund improvements and repairs. And what I'm saying is that that is not possible,
That might be a next year goal.
as I understand it, in the coming year. But what is possible, as I understand, Lynn, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Again, none of these goals are bound neatly by a year. So if part of assessment is to do the plan, you say, well, fine, we got this far this year. That's one piece. The other thing, and present the results to the town council could be put in every one of these sub-goals.
Right.
So I don't think
So
we
Lynn,
need ever.
I'm unclear on why you're saying that none of these goals are bound by a year when we set annual goals. And so I think that what we need to say is in this goal, we need to specify what is the goal for the year. Or when GOL, one of the things that we'll talk about in the future is the evaluation process, then GOL needs to completely revamp that if we're not evaluating him on annual goals. But if we're setting annual goals, we need to specify what should be completed in that annual time frame. So I think that it's reasonable if what Councilor Ryan is saying is that that second part, the cost part, is not feasible in a year. We shouldn't have it in here. And that's a question. I think, George, you raised really good points. And I think ultimately we can ask the town manager, yay or nay, is this feasible? Even though I believe you, but I don't think that it's a good idea to get into the practice of having start this or continue this. If we want it done in a year, we should have it written here as an expected to
So
be.
with future goal addresses that, I think I would like something to the effect of, how to put it, present a plan that will address the current condition, or the conditions at the wastewater treatment plant with the future goal of developing a plan to fund improvements, or future plan of how to fund improvements and repairs, or how to fund it.
The initial way that I read this was and present the results to the town council of
That's
the
understood. We're saying that's all understood. We just want to be clear on what we're asking him to do. The assumption always is that he will report back to us, because if he doesn't, he's in trouble.
right.
So it's really getting clear on what we're asking him to do, and that's an open question. But my understanding is that what we could possibly get in the coming year is, as the result of a consultant's report, a plan for how to address the issues or problems, however you want to put it, at the wastewater treatment plant. And then Lynn's suggestion, and then with a future goal of developing a plan of how to fund this work, is I don't have objection to that, but what we're asking for the coming year is a plan for how to deal with the wastewater treatment plant. And if Paul comes back to us and says, look, that's just not, you're not going to get it until 26 or 27 or whatever, fine, at least we know. But so not assess it, but present a plan that will address the condition of a wastewater treatment plant. And then with the future goal of developing, or I hate plan repeated, but anyway.
Okay.
It's not assess the current condition. It's actually, we want a plan for how you're going to deal with that facility.
Because, well, initially it was that the council wanted to know what the council wanted to know the current condition. That
It's
the
not,
way
it's
that we
not
had-
good. The current condition is bad and it's going to need a lot of work and it's going to cost a lot of money. And right now, we don't need to know that it's bad. We know it's bad. What we need to know and what Paul's working on is a plan to how to address it. And then what would come after that is a plan for how to pay for it.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we're changing the meaning. So I just want to make sure we're all understanding that we're changing the meaning. I personally agree with what you're saying.
So I'm
Uh,
striking that first sentence or first clause is what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that. I'll see if everybody agrees, but I'd say, just say, the goal for the coming year is to present us a plan that will address the condition or the situation at the wastewater treatment plant. That's what I'm hoping to get this year.
I don't think that really makes a big difference, George. If he has to assess it anyway, why not just put it in there?
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to George, something you keep saying, and that is, this is a public document. They don't even know we're in the process of assessing it. So as
Okay.
far as,
Leave it in, fine. Assess the current condition, which is terrible, and present a plan
Fine.
that will address this, and with the future goal of developing a funding plan for improvements and repairs. Thank you. That I think is something that we could,
Okay.
I think it's actually very high priority in my humble, that would be a 1 in my view. That's me. Yeah, just go ahead.
No, I was just gonna move on to the next one.
Form and appoint a building committee to make progress on the fire and DPW buildings. Again, this maybe is more appropriate at council. I think we have to take a strong, forceful voice for, in the coming year, getting DPW off the ground.
Yeah, so this was one where I know some folks had pitched consolidating them, or one person pitched consolidating them. I strongly disagree. I think having each thing broken out into its own goal is important. It's the same amount of work. If we consolidate them, it doesn't change the amount of work.
Fair enough.
So
Good.
I do think that present schematic designs is down there. And so I think that gets to what you're saying. Also sign the contract and break ground. All of those I think are specifics that we are expecting that relate back to those. That's my take on it.
Also to echo something Lynn just said, this is a public facing document. It also is read by staff.
Right.
And it means something when we actually, so I think that's important.
There was a suggested edit to this top one. We had maintain a list of prioritized future road and sidewalk repairs. Oh, you went too far. Sorry. It was on top. There we go. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the suggested edit was continue to address the backlog of road and sidewalk repairs with a multi-year plan while maintaining a list.
Yes.
Again, that's fine, but it's not measurable. It's not specific. So
How is it not measurable? Explain that.
it's not
If in the
measurable.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's measurable in the sense of one sidewalk gets fixed, it's checked, right? So it's fine to put it in there. I just want folks to be aware of it's vague enough that anything counts, right? So it's important to recognize that when we get when we get to the process of evaluation, that some people may say he didn't do enough. And
Well,
some-
if he just did one sidewalk, yeah, he didn't do enough. And that's, so that's measurable. I mean, if
and
it's
then we
only
should
the
say do
sidewalk in
more than
front of
one
my house-
sidewalk. Like
I'm
that's
sorry?
what then we should specify do more than one sidewalk. Like I think that's what I'm saying is how do we
Well, first of all,
I
it
think-
requires money. It requires money. So if he's going to do this, as he has done for the last 2 years, he's going to have money to do it. And that's going to be a challenge with the capital budget, et cetera. But what it really is saying is continue to request funds to address road and sidewalk repairs. And by the way, it'd be nice if you had a list, though how useful it's going to be, I think is a very good question. But the point of this is that we want you to continue to do what you've been doing. And that means continue to ask for substantial money to do it.
Okay, I would hill I'll die on. I would break these out into two things. They are asking for two different things. I would break this out into two goals.
Oh,
I
you
think that
would.
continue
Okay.
to address road and sidewalk repairs is one thing.
Yep.
Maintain a list of prioritized, et cetera, is a second thing. I don't think they
That's
should be
what I
combined.
had originally, yes. So, but I was following your lead there.
This was not my lead. This was an ad that I got from someone else.
That's okay. I would have then two items. And that's a suggestion, and I'm open to having it knocked down. Unlike the suggestions that are coming to us from, I should have just written these and they all would have gone in the document.
You could have. I asked for track changes.
Because I thought we would have a committee and that's where the five of us talk and we hash it back and forth.
Talking.
And
You
often
were
I
talking.
I
We're
see that
talking.
my ideas are terrible.
So Lynn, could you please add a new row? Your ideas are not terrible. Could you please add a
Yeah,
new row under
you are.
continue to address and move?
And then, so it's two separate items, yeah.
Yep. Sorry, nope, okay.
No,
yeah.
I know, I'm gonna just take
Just
some
do it
of it
there.
out
Thank you.
to just repair and replacement
And then
and
just edit it out. yeah.
period,
Thank you.
right to that's the top one, right?
Continue to address road and sidewalk repairs
Yes.
and replacement. Okay, fine. And then take the first part and send and maintain a list of prioritized. And in all honesty, what they do is they take the tool they now use to evaluate the condition of our roads, and that's what generates the list.
Yep.
It's not like they go out there and do a 6-week study. And
Not every goal needs to be hard, but we need that.
well, yeah, and okay.
Can't wait to keep talking about this with you, George.
I'm sorry, it's just hard. Yeah.
I know. Okay. So
We had a good item by item. I'm sorry, I have a question
nope,
about.
it's okay.
Okay,
Next up,
sorry. Yeah,
schematic designs.
that's fine. That's great. Because
Okay.
it focuses on DPW, I love it. And propose an entry fee for outside municipalities when connecting to the town of Amherst water and or sewer systems.
There was a suggestion here from another counselor to change municipalities to entities.
Well, I actually did some research and we already do that. So we already charge anybody who hooks up to our water sewer system, developers, whatever, that's standard. Unless they're asking for some special fee, that's standard. And we also do it with municipalities. And the only one that's on the horizon is Hadley. And and often it's a complicated back and forth. So it's not clear that this is needed.
Lynn,
And
thank you.
entities
George,
is
we do
certainly-
not.
I'm
We
sorry?
do not charge. All we do is they pay for the cost of connecting,
Right.
okay? But they do not pay anything toward the actual structure they're connecting to, except
So
in
this would be-
monthly rates or daily, or, per cubic foot rates.
So an entry fee is, in a sense, particularly a term of art or a special term that would be an additional fee
Right,
beyond what they already pay to hook up to our system.
right.
Okay,
So that
all right,
we're
that's
not
new.
sitting there trying to maintain a facility that they're hooking into, but they've never contributed to.
Okay, all right. So it's a special or new fee.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
There were questions. We will continue to go one by one, but I think we've kind of addressed this a little bit with the public facing document. There were questions on whether or not some of these things were necessary. In terms of sign the contract, and update the 5-year plan in light of. I think that this is, even if they're, just because they're easy doesn't mean it's not helpful to have them in here. And not that they're easy, just because they're kind of guaranteed, supposedly, doesn't mean it's not helpful to have them in here, in my opinion, given the public facing nature of this document. And given what we're saying we're going to accomplish this year through this document. That's my take. George, what's next on your list?
Well, we're just going through them item by item. So
Yep.
Lynn has, I guess we still have to decide entities versus municipalities.
I think
put them
both.
both in
I
there.
like to slash. I think a slash is good.
Fine, okay. This next one doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, English doesn't make any sense. So we
Lynn,
need to
is
clarify
that
everything.
new? I thought that was.
No, it was in there last time. It didn't make
Yeah,
sense.
that's
last
all.
I
time. It
wasn't
doesn't make
sure.
sense now.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was having a brain moment.
There's a plan.
Actually, maybe now it does. Yeah, it's the public-private development part that makes no sense. I don't know what this is saying.
I think we just say disposal of. town-owned
Plan to
property.
develop options for the disposal of or disposition of town-owned unused properties. Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
I think I disagree with Anna, and I don't know what the rest of you think, but I think these kinds of things that are gonna happen no matter what. My idea of the outward facing actually is more about the objectives and the broad categories. It's not the particular item so much.
No, this
I
is-
think these should come out. He's gonna sign the contract. It's ridiculous.
Well,
I think
And
that
I
this-
don't know about the Jones, but I don't think that's, it's not, I just don't think they belong here. And we're gonna get into a debate about the Jones, I'm almost certain.
I think that, yeah, we are, but
So
I
why not
think,
just take it out? Really?
I mean, if that's what the committee wants to do, the committee can do that. People asked the question of, is this necessary? There wasn't a proposal to strike it. For me, this indicates a priority that the council wants the town manager to maintain at the forefront. Lynn,
communication to the outside world. In addition to that, just think of this last year. This elementary school building contract just tied us up for 2.5 months and cost us a bundle of money. Resources, cost.
So
And-
how's that an argument for keeping this in here? I would move to strike the last three items. And that's probably
Is
gonna
there a
die on the
second?
vine, but that's what I would do. I would strike the
I-
last
are
three
you
I
items.
making
would
that
not.
motion?
I'm sorry?
Are you making that motion?
Yeah, I'll make it. I know I'm not gonna get a second, but I think that in the interest of trying to reduce the enormous number of objectives, I don't see the point of putting in a goal that is gonna happen whether it's in here or not. And I can't believe that people read this document to see whether we support the elementary school building project or whether we support the Jones Library project, since we voted on both numerous times. And the 5-year capital improvement program, I believe, and I may be wrong and I can be corrected, is always revised every year in light of our financial realities. So these are three things that either happen all the time or are going to happen no matter what. And we're trying to get things out of this document. So I move that we strike the last three items.
Is there a second?
Second, I'm interested in hearing the argument against that.
I think you just heard it, but George, anything else to
No,
say?
I heard the argument for it. What's the argument against
The
it?
argument against it is public-facing document. And
Um,
it takes time and resources.
I do think I agree with what Lynn said. My argument for keeping it is we use this document as a public facing document, yes, and as a focus of the town. I'm kind of just repeating what Lynn said. This document tells the town manager where we want him to focus his time and his staff's time. And I believe that making sure that those contracts are signed and through, which feels like a sure thing, but honestly, who knows? And breaking ground, especially with the elementary school, feels like a sure thing, but who knows? But for me, it's important to keep those in here so that we can mark the progress that we're making and show where we want the priorities of the town manager's time to go in the coming year. So for me, that's why these staying in here is helpful. Once again, I do not think that the number of items to me feels arbitrary. It's the weight of the items that matters. And so for me, I'm not going to cut things for the sake of dropping the number of action items down if they're things that are important to us as a council and that we believe the town manager should do and focus his time on.
So with the last item, the 5-year capital improvement program.
That I would support striking, but that would be a second motion because your motion was to delete all three.
Well, clearly the motion would fail 2-2, so I would then.
Well,
not
we
even-
need to vote, George, because the motion's on the table.
Okay, fine, let's vote.
It was made and seconded. So I'm going to go ahead and call the vote. Counselor Ryan,
Aye.
Lynn,
Nay.
I am a no. Counselor Ete.
Nay.
Okay, the motion fails 3-1 with one absent.
So I'd make a
Uh-huh.
motion to strike the last item.
I will second that motion. The last, can you be specific just for the sake
Update
of
the 5-year capital improvement program, blah, blah, blah.
I to strike blah blah blah. I
Yada,
will
yada, yada.
I will second that motion to strike the 5-year capital. All right.
And my
I will
argument
second
is,
it. Sorry,
as
go
I've
ahead.
already said, that this is done every year. And if I'm mistaken in this, or if it's important that somehow this be really emphasized, because somehow they're not gonna, I mean, actually, this is done by JCPC. So we should be sending this to
not done right.
JCPC. Anyway, I think we'd come out.
JCPC does not do the updating of this. They just get it from the staff.
So Paul provides the update through his staff, through his financial people. And so the message is basically to Paul to have your financial people update this in light of the 2024 revisions. And I'm happy to be corrected if in fact this is something that could fall through the cracks.
The only question is if the expectation was that this be done sooner than it normally would be. Lynn.
Our financial director just spent an enormous amount of time developing a recent update. At the last finance committee meeting, they have still not committed to any model, and they're
Right.
not sure they're going to. So it's going to remain an open issue.
Mhm.
Again, a public-facing document. That 5-year plan is the best way that we have communicating to the public the depth and cost of our major capital projects.
So Lynn, in the coming, I'm sorry, Frick has his hand up.
Hang on. Counselor Ate.
So, Lynn, I'm wondering then, is from what you've said, is the holdup from the side of the town or from the council?
Lynn.
At this point, it's the council, but it's later on, it could be the town. It goes back and forth. And one other thing is, we could adopt a plan today, and then if Amherst College gave us $5 million, or we got a bunch of money from a state program, we'd change the plan.
But Lynn, I don't think Paul would look to the, oh, well, your point is it's an outward facing document and somehow some people might read this and go, oh, these guys are really doing a great job. So, okay. And we can leave it in, I guess. I mean, the motion's
We
been
made it. We
made.
have a motion. We have to vote.
I can withdraw the motion if my seconder is willing to do so. But the
Fine.
argument that Lynn is making is that somehow the public will read this and be heartened.
You know, I like to believe that too, generally. I agree with the withdrawal of the motion. Okay.
Well, is Freka okay with that? That's up to him.
I was the seconder.
Oh, you seconded. I apologize. Okay,
I was
fine.
trying to be so supportive. All right.
All right.
Counselor Ate.
So to withdraw a motion just requires the second to
To withdraw it.
withdraw
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
So
which is
there's
I was
no vote.
thinking
Yeah,
that
no vote.
it would still be a vote because it's now the council's, or not the council, but the committees. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I got my Robert's Rules pocket guide somewhere. Okay, so
Anna,
next-
can I just mention something? Because you appropriately moved these around, I think to alphabetize them, there was a lot of things that didn't fit in the right place. Some of these should now be turned to black again, and I'll let you decide on that.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, got
And
it.
would you be willing to put some of them together if they go together, or do you think that I
Why?
mean, no?
No, because why though? Like
Okay, all right.
What-
fine. It's your document, and you've done a great job. Both of you are doing a great
It's
job putting this
all
thing
of our
together.
document.
Okay,
I
fine.
just don't
No,
see.
it's not my document. At the end, I'm going to vote against it, but no, that's all
Oh,
right.
George. George, this is very much your document because I wanted multiple outcomes and died
That's
on the
true.
vote.
You
So
yielded
do
on
not
that.
try
I
to get
forgot
yourself
that.
out of this one.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
responsible
for that.
Are we on
All right,
to?
we're at the last section. As
Last
my
one.
understanding, it's the last section. There are 3 items.
That's
and-
correct.
And this is a total whatever, but let's see what you think.
It's excellent. Great. No questions. Okay. There are. I'm just
There's
looking.
3.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So some comments here that were suggested additions. George, do you want to go first and then I'll go? Or do you want
No,
me to?
I want you to go because here
Okay.
this is the one section where I just thought, what the, but anyway, that's okay.
All right. So the first comment was to add 2 new action items in.
Okay.
The first was explore the possibility of pilot legislation
Okay.
regarding nonprofits at the state level.
Mhm.
It is not specific, but I don't know how to make it more specific.
It's nonprofits because it's both hospitals and
No, it's not
I read.
specific is what I said. I understand
Right.
that it's not.
No, you're saying you wouldn't know how to evaluate
I don't know
them
how
in
to
this?
make this more specific of an
Right.
ask other than
Right.
explore. Counselor Ate, did you have a thought on this?
Yes, it's more about clarity. The town manager can't explore the possibility of legislation that would be council.
He could, all right, go ahead, Lynn.
The town manager, along with the president and vice president of the council, meets with our legislators once a month. And that's when we have these kinds of discussions. In addition to that, Paul and I have actually talked about, not specifically this one, but the next one, where we would try to come up, create a coalition of 29 municipalities, or the municipalities in which the 29 public higher ed institutions reside, and try to get the state to amend the formula for state-owned land. So he would be very involved.
I don't doubt that he would be involved. I do think he would be, but the language puts the ball squarely in his court when, in this case, it requires some kind of collaboration, which you've said with yourself. And so if there's something,
So maybe work with the council? Would you like that, Freka? Work with the council to explore the possibility?
yes, it might be a bit pedantic, but
No,
the
no.
manager isn't dealing with legislation.
Work with the council to explore the possibility of pilot legislation regarding nonprofits at the
Go
state
ahead,
level.
Lynn.
Every
Lynn?
one of these is working with the council at some level. It's really working with our legislators.
Yeah. So maybe there isn't a role for, I mean, but what role Paul is playing, he's playing, and there's, I guess, what in this item what's this telling him to do that he isn't already doing? This item you mentioned, the second one is specific and concrete, and that might make sense to be in here. What is this telling him to do that he's not already doing?
It's continuing to do what he's been doing.
Right, so it's like, yeah, I think.
So for example, Sean Mangano did some research on this, but then it got dropped when he left.
Anna also did a lot of research on this. Counselor Ate?
Yes, you did.
Counselor
Well,
Ate, go ahead.
Yeah, Judge might not want to hear this, but it is a public-facing document. And it might be the case that they are members of the community who aren't aware of the work that the town manager is doing with regard to working on pilots. And so putting it in there might just spread the word.
Okay. So the second one here, because it's relating to this, I'm not necessarily totally pushing us past it, but just to have the second one on here, was explore the possibility of amendments to the state pilot legislation to reflect the use of land.
I didn't write that very well. I got.
That's okay.
Well, let's
Then
put it up
would
here and
home
not just look
rule-
at it. Yeah, right, good.
Would this be a home rule?
No, it won't be.
It couldn't be?
No.
Okay.
It's there's state-owned land in it's enormous numbers of municipalities.
No, I know. I wasn't sure if there was a way to have just us be special, but okay. Apologies, I keep turning my camera off. I didn't eat dinner beforehand, so I'm trying to scarf down. Okay, so before I get cranky. It hasn't happened
Passed
yet.
that a long time ago. But yeah.
I know. Regarding pilot legislation to reflect the use of land, Lynn, is what you said.
So work with others to explore the possibility of revising state legislation. Okay.
How state land is used, to reflect how state land is used. And the reason I say this is because, you know, some of the state land is forest. Okay, it's used for hiking. Some of the state land has huge buildings on it and people come to it 9 months a year. Those are very different things. Work with our legislators, revising state legislation state pilot.
Regarding pilots involving state land, and maybe just leave it at that, because obviously, that's, I mean, and regarding pilots involving state land, just say that.
Yeah, that's
Is
fine.
that okay? Involving
Yeah.
state land?
Yes.
We will have to spell out pilot, at least the
Right,
first time.
fine.
Okay,
And some might say, what's the difference between the first one and the second one? I don't know.
I do.
And you can explain it, you'll address it. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Fine.
thank you so much.
We're still not quite there, but we're almost there. You guys are great to do this. I apologize. You can hate me forever, but
Which I don't know if that's actually possible, even if we
well,
try.
at least until the end of whatever.
Well,
this
you know.
millennium, whatever.
Millennium. Okay. So there are a couple other proposed additions here that were removed, and I think that removed for good reason, but
Yep.
let's talk about it. So first was provide appropriate support for council committees. We removed it because that means nothing.
Correct.
I'm fine not adding it back in because I'm feeling, as my dad says, feeling chippy. Respond to communications from the council in a timely manner. That means nothing as well. I think,
That comes out. yeah.
but I met with
Right.
this counselor to ask, why do you keep proposing things that aren't specific? And they said that there have been instances where counselors have stopped getting responses from Paul on issues. And so I do think that there is what I talked to this counselor about was the third thing that they wanted back in was meet with each counselor individually at least twice per year. So the proposal that I pitched and that they said sounded good was provide the opportunity to meet with each counselor a minimum of twice per year. We didn't really get into the email issue or communications issue. I think that sometimes what happens is Paul doesn't have the answer on an issue and a counselor wants an answer faster than he's able to get
Right.
it.
Right.
Understandably, he waits to respond back, but I think that if we put in the provision of at least twice per year, if they want it, I didn't want to mandate it either. I don't have a better way to phrase the respond to communications in a timely manner.
Fine, just leave it. I mean, if you're putting it in, let's leave it and else, yeah.
That would be a separate one. Lynn, sorry.
Oh, you want both of them in there?
No, I didn't want I didn't think the
I don't
second.
want either one, but that's okay.
No,
All right,
I know.
let's leave the
And
second.
yeah.
Let's leave the timely manner out because it doesn't fit. We're holding fast to our qualifiers here, and it doesn't fit our qualifiers.
Right, exactly. We can measure, right, okay.
Someone else suggested adding in an action item to meet regularly with Joe and Mindy and better align state and town priorities. So I'm not clear that I don't think that's helpful.
Well, we can bring it up if
And
we want.
especially because we just put in work with our legislators.
Yes, we have specifics that we could actually measure, right?
Okay, the question, where are we? Wait, why are there so many lines?
Did I submit something about the, oh no, it was in a different conversation. Forget that.
I believe we're doing the last category, which is town council, community and strategic relations.
Yes,
And
we
I don't see
are.
that, and the main items have disappeared. We now have a bunch of new items we're looking at, which is fine. Apparently, we gotta do that. But what happened to the ones that
That's
were,
what I'm trying to figure out too. Lyndon,
where'd they
did
go?
we
You're up
go?
there.
Oh, there they are. There are three of them, and we need
There
to.
we
go
are.
through
Okay,
those.
yeah,
Yes,
found him. Okay, sorry. So the
thank you.
comment, yeah, George, so I was just adding in the additional one. So there was not a comment on the first one other than that it was kind of redundant with the one about economic development and housing.
Can we scroll up to it and look at it?
Yeah,
It does seem redundant. It
It
does
does.
seem like a lot of hot air, but maybe.
it does.
Because we have specific requests or items up above related to housing and economic development, as you just said. What does this add that's not already in the document?
Well, so the issues that are at here is the long-term financial viability of the town and financial and social impact of higher education. What a crop, excuse me.
We're all getting tired. We'll have
Yippee.
to.
All right.
Here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm
Yeah.
going to do this. I'm going to accept it, and then I'm going to strike a thing through it.
Okay. That makes sense. This is
And
gonna
we'll-
be a
there'll be a battle about this, and that's
this will be a
fine.
really interesting discussion.
Yeah, right. Because I got.
The shift that could be argued is meet regularly as per the strategic partnership agreement. But
It's already above.
but
and
that's
related-
only
yeah,
UMass.
Yeah, and it's only a
Right.
mess, right?
So, all right, okay.
The next one, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
continue. So this was the word continue to was recommended to be struck, and the question was how is this measured?
I don't know where this comes from.
It's not, this is
It's
not
been there for years.
old.
Could we please strike it through, or at least suggest striking it?
Yeah, unless we come up with
Something specific and
what
concrete.
we're asking.
Yeah, what do we ask him to do?
Like, it's not a bad idea. It's just, if we don't know what we're asking him to do, we shouldn't be asking him to do it. Counselor Ate?
I know that CSSJC had spoken about stuff related to translation. So
No, that's,
Okay.
they are things that could be done, and whoever recommended this can speak to those specific things and have them come as an action item.
Okay, so we can keep it in
you
here.
can have it stricken and then they could come and defend it. I would
All
like
right.
to strike it out.
Okay,
That's, but
that's,
it's not, yeah. And if somebody objects, they can then say, well, wait a minute, I want this in. And then we'd say, okay, well, what specifically do you have in mind?
Yeah.
But since they haven't given us anything, I think we should strike it.
okay.
And then the next one, I'm sorry, and I think we're almost done, but the next one, somebody tell me what this means.
It means get agreements with Hampshire and Amherst College.
So basically, sign or enter into a strategic partnership agreement with Hampshire and Amherst College.
Yeah,
I
That's
think
what it is.
based on how long it took us to get the one with UMass, I don't know that it's actually fair to say sign.
Well,
honest.
enter into, or, basically I guess we're saying it's a priority that he have one of these with all three major institutions. And
So
since he has one, yeah, go ahead.
the discussion here was that this is another one that's not entirely under his control. So we wrote pursue because he can't make it happen without their agreement.
right.
But I think we could express some impatience. We could put, or
I
maybe,
think it's
some people aren't impatient. I'm impatient.
No, it's not
Yeah.
that. It's that
Mhm.
if Paul does everything he does, but though one of those institutions or both of those institutions isn't interested, there's no leverage with either of them, right? They're private institutions. There's nothing that we can do. So we also don't want to set him up to expect something that he can't do on his own. So I think that was why it said pursue, not enter into, just for
I
Fair
think
to
that's right.
So
I think it's important
none
for
of
it
you
to be
I'm
there
sorry.
so that those institutions understand that Paul is under pressure to do it.
George, does that make sense that saying enter into sets up an expectation that he alone couldn't meet?
Well, I have a different view of, and obviously our perception of this is very limited because we're not engaged in these conversations in a direct way whatsoever. But one does learn things, as we know, second, third, fourth, and fifth hand. Anyway, let's leave it the way it is. I would prefer enter into, but this is fine. We'll leave it as it
Okay.
is.
So and then those are the three. And any last comments that people would like to make? Here's what I'm gonna do
Yeah.
while you think about your comments. I am going to propose to Lynn is gonna send me this. Thank you, and I will reformat it. I will keep everything as track changes other than the places that things were just moved and weren't changed. So I'll figure that out. I'm going to send a request from GOL that the council convene to discuss the goals. My recommendation is that we go item by item, and it's going to be painful. It's going to be brutal. George might murder me, but I think that that's what we need to do. We need to either vote or up or down each item. Where we get into trouble as a council is when we mush things all together and look at it and wordsmith it, and any one person suggesting a word change gets it in the document. We go down a rabbit hole. So we need to be able to send out this document as edited, and people need to say, people need to come to a retreat with motions to change or motions to strike or motions to add, and the council needs to vote on those on every single dang one. But we're gonna get, if we start wordsmithing, we're just gonna not wordsmithing. Send me your grammar edits, please. But if we start getting into this spiral of consensus seeking with 13 people and all of these items, it's gonna get really bad. George, tell me why I'm
So,
wrong.
no. You are recommending a retreat.
I am recommending a retreat just for
And
this,
Just for
nothing else.
this, in the first week of, or the first 10 days or something of January.
Based on how these goals are supposed to apply for 2025, it should be.
In other words, before we
And-
have our
and-
next scheduled council meeting, you are requesting a retreat focused on this. And when we do have this retreat, you're suggesting that we proceed item by item, and every change would require a motion and a second and a vote.
Yep.
Hmm.
Even
No,
though it
that's-
sounds more painful up front, I think it's going to be less painful.
Well, that's the approach I took when you saw what I tried to do at the last meeting, and we quickly, I think rightly in that case, but we quickly segued to a more consensus approach.
I mean, the
and-
other
And we only
option,
got through climate action, so.
the other option is you throw something out, and if there seems to be consensus, you don't need a vote, but if there isn't, then you go for a vote.
If it stands unless someone wants to change it.
Right.
But Lynn, I don't want to throw anything out, because throwing things out is when people just then see the opportunity to maybe change it.
Mhm.
Whereas if they have a thought, they need to be able to present it. I'm not trying to say, let's discuss everything, but I think I think that's where we get spiraling, is when we kind of just say, let's talk about this one. It's more
Mhm.
of point by point. Does anyone have a motion to make? What's your specific language? Up or down? Point by point. Like,
Right. That's good.
people have had so many opportunities to send us stuff. We've received it. We've discussed it.
I don't think you're gonna be able to avoid a kind of deep dive, at least in some circumstances, that raises questions for counselors at a fundamental level about what their priorities are and what they care about and what they don't. And that needs discussion. And I understand the desire to get through this thing. And I think your approach is probably the best way to start. But if there are gonna be moments where we're just gonna have to hammer it out, and people are gonna have to, think hard about what they prioritize and what they don't. We
Yeah.
also have Athena's suggestion. I don't know if you want to follow up on it, but she was proposing that people try to do some kind of numbering system. And given the large number of goals that we have now put in this document, I'm beginning to think that might have some merit, to at least in a provisional way, go through and number them. On the other hand, though, that would imply that at least some of these might come out. In other words, if you don't,
Some
so
of them I'm sure will come out.
do you think
Because
prioritization is something you would encourage or not?
It is. And I think that this system for how we prioritize them it's always going to be tricky. That's why I wanted to break out every single goal into one
No,
thing,
right.
because
Fair
when you
enough.
start condensing, they get weightier.
Exactly.
Some of these goals are bigger than others. I do think we're going to need to do some sort of prioritization. I still think that is very fraught with the goals like we have them, because they are such different weights. I don't think it should be a within this category, what's top, what's bottom, because some of the categories have fewer than others. Like, who's to say we should be given, I'm saying arbitrarily, like 10, whatever. What are your top 10 across all 47 million of these action items? And that's how we should prioritize
So
it.
top 10 across the board. In other words, looking at all the all the 6 gold areas, or how many,
Yeah.
6 gold areas. What are your top 10?
Rick.
Maybe not top 10, but like
Well,
whatever
no,
the number is.
you gotta
But
pick a
yes,
number.
I do
Could be
think there
top
should be
30.
prioritization because, but I think that needs to happen after we go through each item, because we need to know what the full list is. What that prioritization system is going to help us do is
Mm.
we are going to end up with a list that is not doable in a year. 100% we will guarantee
That's a
that list.
failure on our part then. That's a failure on our part.
But no, but then that's where the prioritization needs to come through and say, all right, this item was no one's priority. It's not to say it doesn't matter, but it's not going to be in our goals document, and we need to move to strike
Okay,
it.
so it could lead to being some things being taken out.
That's the
Okay.
flow that I see,
Right.
right? Like we establish all the action items, then we prioritize by action item, not by goal area, but by action item. And then we strike based on that until we get to it's not a number. It's we get to a set that is feasible. And that
Yes, I guess
discussion.
my question is specifically when you make your recommendations to the council,
Mhm.
are you going to include this idea of prioritization? We're going to hold off on that until we actually have this meeting and we have this process of going through the draft, and then you will present that as something you want people to do? Or do you want to say in advance? I'm sure how you do this, but in advance you'd say, and as you're going, in preparation for the meeting, prioritize. No,
I'm not going to have people do it in advance of the
in
meeting
advance. Fine,
because
that's the
things are
wrong
going to
question.
change.
That's
But I
fine.
do think that they'd happen at the same retreat, and I might get pushback on that, right?
Okay,
People
you
might
might
say I
try to
need
do
more
it at the
time
retreat. Okay, fine.
to process
Okay.
it, but I would pitch that they happen at the same time.
But not in advance.
No,
So
not in advance because things are going to change, and so why have people do all that work if
let's hope we have a retreat. That's going to be the first question.
Yes.
Everybody's, yeah, we'll see.
Okay. We need to get this done first. That's priority 1. But I just wanted to preview coming attractions just
Yep.
so people remember what's on our plates. We still need to do the AHRA successor body charge.
Yep.
And we still need to deal with the legislative process guide one way or another. And it's what it is. And we will have
I'm with your grimace.
I saw it.
I'm reaching back to get a piece of paper.
We have several
Pain. It's old age.
several upcoming proclamations, resolutions, etc. And then the other thing that we need to what I'd really love to do if I'm on GOL again, and not saying I'm chairing it again, but what I'd love GOL, I'm not, if someone else writes these dang reports, I will happily chair again. But we need to talk about the town manager evaluation part. It's chicken and egg, but once we have goals in a better place, our evaluation system is going to be much easier. That is something GOL will need to take up in the spring. I will revisit my transition memo as well. Lynn, go ahead.
The other thing is we will have several things coming to us from other committees.
Yes, and we will have a finance committee member appointment.
Yes.
So think now on if there's anything that is particularly striking your fancy that you would like to take point on. Lynn.
We have a finance committee appointment immediately, and then we have another one in June.
June, right.
Yeah.
Great news. And we can't stack them. Okay, so is there anything that I'm forgetting? I'm saying that because I think we've been really focused on these goals for a while, and I just don't want us to lose sight. Also, because I will be seeking assistance from the committee in leading the finance committee member search if folks are feeling like they might be interested in being the point person for that.
I'll be glad to help with that.
Okay.
Having
So
done the process for the Charter Commission.
Yep, George did one, you did the other. I think
Yeah.
either one of you would be great. Yeah, George.
Glad to do it. Yeah.
So just for my sake and my notes, AHRA charge,
Yep,
status of the legislation process guide,
yep,
town manager evaluation process,
Yep.
FinCom appointments, and then we have some committee referrals.
Right.
Yes, and
And
various
that-
proclamations.
That's at the moment what we're looking at. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna revisit to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. But
Okay.
That's the list I came up with the other day with Athena.
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I'm going to be sharing that list at some point. Don't even,
Okay.
let's not go there.
Totally fine. And a lot of that, it depends on if committees stay the same or if they change up to, I'm not that list doesn't change, but just for you all.
I suggest we give all these items to DeAngelis.
Yes.
I make that motion. All, and see what, Councilor DeAngelis has nothing to say. Okay, well, then it's 4-0.
All right. Here we go. Counselor Ate, I'm just begging for grace in this moment. I got to tell you, like what I'm silently saying are prayers for kindness.
I'm sorry. Oh, I can
ahead.
raise my hand now. I actually would like to be a co-sponsor on this.
Great. Do you have edits?
No,
You gonna do the work?
no, I have no
Right.
edits.
Okay. Lynn, did you have something else?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. Yes, already? Go ahead.
I'd also like to sponsor this
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
and start by saying that, okay, I think we could, are we allowed to begin?
Yes.
Okay. Perhaps we could shorten Reverend.
Yeah, we can. I just thought it was nice to spell it out the first time.
Okay.
I think it's nicer to spell it out, actually.
Okay, then we could go with that.
I think that'd be nice. Yeah.
2025, I don't think there is supposed to be a comma on the second line, day 2025.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Issues with the sponsors list. Okay. Issues with the first whereas.
50s and 60s, by having the apostrophe, it is specific to 1950. So there isn't supposed to be an apostrophe.
Second whereas.
I think we could be consistent with having movement either capital or small. It was a mixture of both in this article, and so we could decide whether we would go with civil rights movement, all capitalized, or movement, small. Yeah.
I'm gonna capitalize it.
Yeah.
Okay, second whereas. Anything here? Third whereas.
Mhm.
Long one, so I was
Mhm.
waiting. Fourth whereas.
What do we think of, let's see, are still being fought for today on local, state, and federal levels? It sounds fine, but I was thinking if we just said on local level, that is not as clear. So
So on B.
Local,
yes,
state,
on
and
B.
federal levels. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
I went deep into the archives for this one, so if you try to come for me on it, I will cry. Go ahead.
With college, right?
Capitalize the dimensions.
It was not capitalized in the records, but I will capitalize it here. I'm just
It would be, I think, naturally, it should be. Yeah.
all right.
If that's the title of the talk. Otherwise, the title of the talk is Dimensions of a Complete Life.
It was
Which
the
maybe
that
it
I
was,
wanted.
maybe it was, but
No, it was the
and
dimension.
it should be capitalized, yeah.
Okay.
Comma after 1961.
Wait a minute, really? No, that doesn't look right. Delivered at Smith College on April 16, 1961, before a visit to Amherst College. I would not have put a comma there. That's not right.
Okay.
I'm not sure, oops.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd put a comma after 16th.
I always thought you did that on dates. I always thought there was a comma.
But it's
before.
April 16, comma, not 16th, comma.
All right.
So take away the 16.
Take away that either
So
make it
delivered at Smith College
16,
on April
comma,
16, 1961, before a visit to Amherst College the following day.
I kept the TH because it felt more realistic for when we read this out loud.
Okay.
That's fine.
But it does not
That's
matter.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
I know it's long. It's just long.
It's all right. It's a beautiful speech.
Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry. Your hand is still up.
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Whereas despite legislation. Also, fun fact, this was like a speaking tour. He gave this speech at multiple colleges at the time. All right,
Right.
sorry.
So
Right,
if you want, oops,
You're good. Go ahead.
if you wanted to be consistent, you should say November 2nd.
No, I took. Oh no, I did. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So we'll do that.
And remove the comma from April 4th.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure.
Good.
All I'm saying is grammar.com says put it in there. So
Yeah, the hell with them. Okay.
Actually, there should not be a comma there
where?
after 1968.
Yep. It's a lovely line. Service is the soul's highest purpose.
Yeah, we're on salt. This one. Okay.
Hmm.
Which, by the way, oh no, we already skipped the crazy part. Go ahead.
So Anna, may I ask, this of course has been done for many years now. But
I
it looks like
edited it.
you've done a major kind of rewrite here.
did. Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
good for you.
Well, I figured if I was going to sponsor it, I may as well like.
Well,
Make it
and I take it that
nice.
the DEI folks are, who was the community sponsor was DEI, wasn't it?
Yep. Philip took a look at it and liked
Philip,
it.
great.
Yeah, yeah, he approved it. He approved it.
No, good, it's good.
Any issues with the now therefores?
20th, the
Yes,
T.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's good.
All right.
Good. This group is still going strong at almost the 3-hour mark. This is true service. This is the
And
highest calling right
You're
here.
earning
After
that.
January, you don't need a comma.
Where am I? There is no comment. Where? Here?
At the very end.
Down below,
very
voted this
end.
day of
Voted this
January
day of January.
2025. It's the final line, the very
And-
bottom.
Me.
Voted this day
Oh
of.
my God. Sorry, I was staring up here.
No,
like,
you're
So
still up
actually,
there.
the
We're
way we
zooming
do
by.
it says it's voted and then you leave blank.
there's a blank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no, where's the blank? Where it voted this blank day of January. Right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
right.
Athena will sort it out.
Counselor.
And hopefully she has gone home, I hope.
She has. I texted her to make sure she
Good,
left.
that's fine. then. Good
Counselor
for you.
Arte?
Yeah, I do remember that we read this proclamation at an event. Are we having something this year?
No, I
no.
asked and he said no. So that's why it's not in here. But thank you for asking.
Because remember the Human Rights Commission and DEI are trying to consolidate into more like one big event. So they're not doing something, which seems strange to me, but
I thought we would do something with this at the school breakfast, but okay.
Did we look at the last, I'm sorry.
Yep. Nope. Last one.
Can we
Go
look at
ahead.
the last sentence?
Yes.
This is very good. I like it very much. But I just have a question about let the town of Amherst reflect upon its commitment to continue the challenge.
This was this was a holdover. I didn't really know what to do with it. I liked it, but I didn't know how to.
I don't know what it means to continue a challenge, to continue to meet the challenge. Or is it reflect upon its commitment to meet his challenge that all people will, it's just the
just
wording
take
is
it
a
out.
little awkward, but
How about
maybe
reflect upon its commitment that all people will live his dreams?
if that's what Anna wants to say, that would be more, would be
Lynn's
clear.
also a sponsor, so it's fine.
So let the town of Amherst reflect upon its commitment that all people will live his dreams.
Are
his
able
dream,
to live.
maybe his
I think
dream.
are able to might be nicer than will.
That would,
Reflect
yeah,
upon
I
its
would agree
commitment
with
that all
that.
people are able to live his dream. You want to make it singular? Because I think it's a singular dream, I think.
Yeah, a
Okay.
couple. All right.
Who says we don't do poetry and
That was beautiful,
Geo
everyone. Is there a motion to find this clear, consistent,
I
and
declare this clear, consistent, and actionable.
second?
I
not-
move.
Yes, yes, yes. I figured as much.
It's taking over. I second.
I had to yell at y'all about hands today. I already seconded it like 2 minutes ago.
Oh, you did? Before
I'm
she
writing-
made it, you seconded. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Fine.
I am writing it down so that I don't forget when I inevitably don't write my report. Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. Lynn,
Aye.
I am an aye. Counselor Ette,
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
George is hesitant.
I know. I'm a little-
This has been a wonderful evening. I couldn't imagine anyone else I would rather spend it with than the three of you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Ditto, always.
He is so full of, you know,
I choose
And-
to believe him. Am I wrong? Am I
and you
terrible?
know
I'm
that
in
we
much better mood
all-
now. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just,
and you know that we all missed the big event.
I know.
sip
We'll
it
all have
strong?
to go drink and
Yeah.
shop on our own.
I know, that's, I know.
Just get a flask and then it's a sip and shop.
Mm.
Okay. Great. This is in our publicly recorded meeting. So we need to now call the vote now that we've discussed the motion.
I thought we
Counselor,
just voted.
we didn't
Okay.
vote to adjourn.
we
Counselor
didn't.
Ette,
Aye.
I am an aye. Counselor Ryan
Aye.
and Lynn.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Have
We
a
did it.
safe and lovely and peaceful holiday. If I don't see you again before then, I'll be gone all Christmas week, so
And
I'll be back at the end of December.
Freka, enjoy your trip.
He's going to Germany. The guy's,
Yeah.
we may never see him again.
And Anna gets to celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah.
Yeah.
I do. It's true. And I get
Oh,
to see
wow.
my brother, whom I adore, and I only get to see
Oh,
once.
Is he
nice.
coming to you or you going to him?
He's coming to me.
All right. Good.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Enjoy.
Bye, everybody.
Safe
Thank you.
travels. Bye.
Bye-bye.